Attorney General Pam Bondi posted on X moments ago that both Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores, have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. She says Maduro will face charges of narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, along with weapons.
Raise your hand if you think it was legal under the U.S. constitutional law. We got 2.5.
It is concerning to me that we could start labeling new things terrorist orgs. That is a little bit of a slippery slope problem that I think maybe has got some root to discuss.
Not just maybe, Gibbs.
Like the nut of the argument.
Not just maybe. Like
no, it is not just maybe. You're right. It's not just. You're absolutely right about that.
But it happened.
The official legal reason.
So you think this isn't about oil?
I'm not saying it's not about oil. What I'm telling you is it's not about law enforcement of drug trafficking. Suppose that he's a dictator. But suppose that you agree Putin's already a dictator, right? Also a dictator. Fair.
And I think there are differences. I think that with Putin, I think it's fair to say he's a highly oligarchic president. I think that his polling that he has.
Hey folks, please like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure to check out my newsletter. Information is in the description. Yo, can you hear me all right? Hang on.
Yeah.
Let me just switch my audio so it's a little bit better. So you guys can hear
Okay, take
it.
your time. Take your time.
How's that?
Lactoid says he'll be here in a minute too, by the way,
Awesome.
but he's taking his time. So
Is that any better?
I think yeah. What's that, Pisco?
Is that any better? You guys hear me?
yes, we can
Awesome.
hear you just fine.
Yeah, you're clear. Yeah, I think the most important thing is what happens now. I think that's going to be the number one question.
Well,
Yeah,
what
and a part of
happened?
that is the foundation of sort of what the legal scape here is. Because where Wick and I will disagree, or at least be looking at the same mountain from different sides, is the apex enforcement of all rights is force, and the whatever human tribe group has the most force will be able to exert its will on everyone else. That's been the way humans have been forever. It's not that it's right, but it is how it gets
Right, but you're
enforced.
just confusing the issue. That's a banal descriptive point that force is the way.
No,
that
you're being
people-
retarded.
No, hang on a second. So one
How's that
claim.
oversimplifying it?
I'll tell you how. Well, I'm not saying it's oversimplified. It's a banal statement, a descriptive fact, which is force is the method by which people will enforce their aims and what they want to actualize. But the question isn't what people will do. The question is what people should do. And surely you can't just say, well, people are going to do what they're going to do as the end all be all of your ought analysis in terms of what you want the world to look like.
Yeah, hold on. We can hear you, Admiral Gibbs. Just let Pisco finish, please.
Yeah. So you going back to like, what is the thing that enforces rights or that enforces preferences in the international stage, or hell, even the domestic stage? It just is a side point, because the question that we're having one is a normative one, not a descriptive one. So they're different questions, and you talking about force doesn't help us establish who is right with respect to norms.
I apologize.
So, because we had some of this discussion on X and some of it here, what's your 1 or 3 sentences on this?
Sorry,
your position.
Sorry. No. I'm just going to get you to respond to what I just said. Actually, I have a claim that I just made, which is your statement, which relates to force.
Yeah. Okay. Then
is a descriptive claim and not. Wait. No. You're going to
ask me to answer. I've gathered my thoughts, and I'm ready to answer what you literally just said. Or is that impossible?
No. So the question is, and you have to answer it. Is your claim a descriptive claim or a normative claim? Which of those, if any?
I'm not even having that discussion with you. You're derailing it. The way that law works in all of known human society is there is a tribunal and some method at which to test a claim or a complaint. So you claim there's this international law. Great. What specific body is that? Because none of them, to my understanding, have any teeth.
No, sorry.
So we can say there's these groups that mutually agree that we should all hold hands and be nice to each other. And I think that's important. But I'm looking for, when you say a court, great, what, and I'll make this as clear as I can. At what bench? There's a judge somewhere that should hear this. What's that judge?
So
what's that tribunal?
Did you hear me just now make reference to a court? Did you hear me right now make reference to teeth and the power of enforcement and being able to enforce a judgment? No. I'm dealing with your claim. You just made a claim, which is all of this is so pointless anyway, because we all know that the real way that power is done is through force. What did you just say about force?
You're fucking retarded.
Wait, hang on a second. You just made a comment about force, didn't
you? I'm sorry.
Didn't you just make a
Wait, do you
claim
not
about
agree with that, Pisco?
Hang on. So,
Pisco, just real quick. Do you not agree with that?
I of course make I don't think it's exclusive, but I do think that like a large quantity, if probably the majority of these kinds of different decisions are ultimately have a bedrock of force. That I think is true. I don't think it's exclusive, though, just to be clear. I do think that there is some purchase to norms and values and that kind of stuff. But just put it, hang on a second. Shut the fuck up for a second.
No, you literally don't understand. Literally just the framing.
Hold on, just real quick. Let Pisco make his argument for why he has a stance that he does, and then we can have a discussion.
My stance right now, I have a further stance. I have a normative view on what is going on here, beyond what I'm just saying just now. But what I'm doing is specifically countering this dipshit stream rift who was in the replies, pretending as though A, the lack of enforcement mechanism, B, the lack of quote unquote foundation, C, the fact that force is the great equalizer in the terms of, or I don't know, is the great way that different norms are enforced in actual international politics, that any of that is responsive to what people are having a discussion about regarding what ought occur. That is a question about ethics, norms, and it's not a question about what is or what people are ought to do, like what people are have a tendency to do with respect to force.
So what is the legal framework for you then? Because
I just want you to respond to that first.
I asked you one question. I am responding.
Okay.
I listened to what you said. I think I understand where you're coming from. I'm trying to build a bridge from where I am, which is what I view as reality, to where you are. So you grossly misquote the force thing. You grossly misquote me. And then what you do is you argue against something you created. It's fatiguing and it's annoying. We have to start by understanding what is before we can figure out what should be, or at least come up to our best understanding of what is. So I'll give you an example of why this is actually really important. And if you had any fundamental understanding of how any legal system works, this just makes sense. There's a claim that something's been broken and been violated. And the whole purpose of having a law is to say, let's appeal to the courts to enforce what's proper.
That's your claim.
So that way we don't go into a bloody revolution.
That's your claim. That's your claim.
Structurally, how this works.
What do you mean? It's just
so
how.
If that works, sorry. I'm not done. I'm trying to answer your question.
Wait. Stop right there. You just made a claim.
Do you not want to hear the rest of the answer?
You just said that the whole.
No, you want to derail. Okay, go ahead.
The whole notion of international law rests upon a foundation that there will be some tribunal.
That's not what I said.
Okay, so repeat yourself. No. You just said that the notion of international law presupposes some kind of specific tribunal or enforcement mechanism. That's the claim you made, isn't it?
So
is that the claim? Is that the claim that you made?
It's not.
Yes. Okay. So
you could actually just listen to what I say.
So what, in your view, law does not entail a necessary tribunal or enforcement mechanism. That's correct.
Why are you retrying to restate what I'm saying instead of simply asking?
I'm trying to make sure you're not weaseling, because what you're doing is weaseling out of your bullshit claims that law presupposes enforcement. It doesn't, dipshit.
No, we can't even get. I couldn't get to the third part of the chain because you're too emotional. I'm sorry it's upsetting to you.
No,
but if there is a legal system,
what's upsetting is weasel cowards. Weasel cowards who say, for example, the claim that law presupposes a tribunal, law presupposes an enforcement mechanism. That's not true, is it?
Okay, so I'm going to try to.
Is it true or not? Is it true or not?
What court
is it true or so?
To appeal to
it's your false pretense.
Let's presuppose that you're correct, and there is some court that would do this. Where is it?
Did you hear me when I said it's your false premise?
I'm using your framework.
Shut the fuck up for a second. Did you hear me when I said it's your false premise that law presupposes some tribunal? Did you hear me when I said that?
I heard you say it, and it's not my claim, though.
Is it? Do you believe? I don't believe.
I'm just trying to get on the same page with you. I'm not even arguing with you right now.
Just to be clear, it is not the case. It is not the case. It is not the case.
We're going to go through this house.
It is not the case.
You guys gotta go one at a time. Let Pisco ask his question. Then
so this entire charade that he's about to do and that he's trying to do is that appeals to international law, appeals to norms are fundamentally flawed because they lack some kind of actual uniformly acknowledged tribunal by which these claims are assessed. And that, of course, is having the false premise that law presupposes such a tribunal or enforcement mechanism, which of course it doesn't. And so this entire song and dance is him misunderstanding law as presupposing enforcement mechanisms and or courts, as though that were relevant, by the way, to the normative question.
Yeah. Let's move past this, I think, and get to, I think, what I feel is a more interesting discussion in the topic of whether or not we as American citizens should support Trump's handling of Venezuela, both were his strikes moral? Let's set aside the legal question for now. Just
Well,
for
hang
the
on,
moment.
no, we can't do that. So we cannot do that under U.S.
Yes, we
law.
can.
Why not?
No, because I
Absolutely
think
can.
I think everyone on this stage should agree that if the strikes are unconstitutional, that they would be against them from an ethical perspective.
Yes, I mean that.
I think it's impossible for them to be
Shut
unethical.
these
or
real quick.
Whoa, no, because you just said put aside the legal question. I politely, or I try to be polite. Okay, I explain why that can't be the case. Because if it's the case that everyone here would agree that it being illegal, not under international law, but under U.S. law, would control our disposition on whether the strikes were proper or not under our ethical systems, then we can't ignore it because it could be a very relevant consideration.
Can I build a bridge?
Hold on, just
wait. No. I want people to address what I just said. So what I just said is,
I
don't want people to give monologues. Just respond to what I said.
I'm not going to give a monologue.
Hang on. So what I said was,
what
I said was that we cannot ignore the legal issue at a baseline from the American law perspective.
Well, you won't even let me talk about it.
So I just need you guys to address
for it to be
that.
unconstitutional.
No.
And you want me to address
just real quick.
That's
Wait,
a different question. Whether it's impossible for it to be illegal under U.S. law is a different question from whether it's highly relevant.
Go ahead.
I actually, Pisco, I actually want to build a bridge here. I actually somewhat agree with you on this, but on this to a little bit, right? First, I don't give a fuck about international law. We have 11 super carriers. We are the law. That's Urbo doesn't exist. Fuck that shit. Now, the better question is what you just said with the constitutionality here in the U.S. I actually brought up several times in panels. I am a fan of how he's done the drone strikes on the boats. I'm a fan of how he's gone in there and taken some of this out. However, I think that you do bring up something that should be concerning to conservatives and everybody in general, which is where a president, and this has happened since Bush, it happened under Obama, it's now happened under Trump, where they take this like Powers Act, oh God, I'm zooming in, where they take this Power Act and they go after these things, they keep expanding it. First it was, we can drone strike terrorists. Then it was we can drone strike American citizens if they're terrorists. Then it was like, we can make cartels terrorists and attack them. And now it's we can invade other countries if they're identified as a terrorist organization. And I think that is something we should be concerned about, because what's the next thing? A slippery slope. What if Russia has, like, I don't know, I'm just going to pick something random. Don't jump this example. I know y'all will want to. Say, like, Russia was backing Antifa, and it was 8 Russians and 1 American, and we used the Marines instead of the FBI to, like, take them out. I think that on the U.S. soil, that would be concerning if U.S. citizens die, because what's next? 1 American and, like, or like 8 Americans and 1 Russian, and then we invade and take them out in our U.S. soil? Like, I think this is kind of the slippery slope I am concerned about. However, as far as what you're saying with this specifically, I think thanks to Bush and Obama, I think we've moved past the idea that this is constitutionally illegal, and we are able to do special military operations without declaring war. And I think that basically kind of kills what you're arguing, because then every war we've been in since like Vietnam.
So this is why this is precisely why I try to be analytical in my approach, and why I try to fucking limit the scope of people's answers, is because you get a fucking monologue like that, half of which is totally unresponsive. Yes, it totally is.
You spoke for 10 minutes to give a 2-minute thing.
It's very clear. So just answer the fucking question, Gibbs. If this were illegal under U.S. law, would you be against it? Yes or no? Very simple.
Yeah, if it was undeniably illegal.
But it's not. No, if you assessed it to be illegal, if you, on your vision, you said this was illegal under U.S.
I mean, as a layman, if I assessed it, like, listen, I know you're a lawyer, and I know lawyers argue with each other all the time.
You were convinced.
I'm not qualified enough to say that I think it's illegal. I don't think it's illegal under U.S. law. But if it was clear to me, beyond a reasonable doubt,
if it was clear to you,
I would have a problem with it.
Okay, so
if it was, but it's not.
If it was clear to you that it was illegal, okay, we're getting somewhere. What about this dipshit, the fucking Streamriff guy? If it were illegal under U.S. law, would you be against the action?
It's impossible.
If it were, it's a conditional, dipshit. It's a hypothetical. If.
Yeah, purely hypothetical.
I'm just going to say you can ask as many times as you'd like.
If it were illegal. Yeah, because you're bad faith. You're a hack. You don't want to answer questions.
No, I'll explain why.
So
I will answer questions.
So explain why you're not. So explain why you're not answering that question. Explain it.
I can't get the last 4 questions I asked you answered. Here you are trying to ask me a stupid question.
I'm happy to answer your question after you provide us the reason why you won't answer that conditional question of if it were illegal under U.S. law, would you be against it? I want you to explain why.
I'll give you one better.
That is a question you're not going to answer.
Would you like me to just answer it?
I would want you to answer it. That's why.
Simple. I have one question.
Why I asked
you still haven't answered, but
What's
I'm willing to trade that. I'm willing to trade that.
What's the question? You want me to answer first? Or you want to go first?
I'll answer first. I'm such a sport. The answer is I'd still be in support of it.
Okay. So you don't care whether or not the action is illegal.
No.
You just said it. You just said it. Is that not fair? So you would still be in favor of it, even if it were illegal under U.S. law.
I would like to ask my question.
Yeah, that was to be clear. That was what he just said.
Yes,
I say go
now
100%.
answer his question.
Okay.
Though.
Yeah, what's your question?
Ask your question, and Pisco will answer it. Go ahead.
And I'm going to preface it because you're allergic to a part of this, and I want to acknowledge it first. Let's assume that there is a court out there that has all of the legitimacy behind it. What court would we go to in international or U.S. law to challenge this? And the reason I bring this up is the foundation of every legal system is someone making some claim, someone maybe defending it, and someone else making a decision about it. It's just structurally how it works. So I'm not even challenging you whether they could enforce it, right? We have international courts that say things like Benjamin Netanyahu is a terrorist and yet nothing happens. So let's separate that part. But just what court would we go to and what would we say?
So your question is unclear because there's 2 different formulations of it. One, I totally disagree.
Okay,
so I just want to be clear about where I stand on the 2 different formulations. Right. So I want to be clear about the 2 different formulations. So the first question you asked was which court with enforcement authority would be able to adjudicate this as against the United States.
No, I'm saying please stop talking about it.
Wait, hang on a second.
Please stop. I engage with your hypothetical. Engage with mine.
No, I don't. So I don't.
Not a part of it.
So the reason why I'm asking these questions is because I don't understand which question you're asking. Are you asking which court from the perspective of with enforcement authority, or are you asking which court could someone go to adjudicate this?
The second question.
Okay, the ICJ. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay, so you are allowed to adjudicate state-based claims in the ICJ.
Wait, don't we have a Hague law? Don't we have a Hague law? Like if we hold on, so you agree with the U.S. law?
Follow your chain or no?
Hold on, if the IJC took a U.S. soldier and put them over there in trial,
that's not what the ICJ does.
Sure.
That's not what he asked either. This is exactly why. Wait, Gibbs.
Hold on, Pisco. Hold on.
This is why I clarified because of bad faith hacks like you motherfuckers.
In the international court. Well, hold on. I'm just asking you because you're a lawyer, Lactoid's a lawyer. If any international court tried to try a U.S. Soldier for anything that they did under the orders of the U.S. president, it's unconstitutional and illegal for us not to invade the Hague. Would it not be that not true?
I don't know what the answer is to your question. Would it be illegal and
to
unconstitutional to invade the Hague? I guess I haven't.
Well, yeah. If they try a U.S. soldier, we have to invade. That's the law.
I didn't. Did you hear me say the ICJ would? So I'm not sure. I haven't analyzed whether it would be illegal. I assume it would be illegal under international law to invade the Hague. Or
I don't give a shit about that. But if we're talking about U.S. law, that's what you just want to talk about.
Just to translate a little bit here. What Gibbs is claiming is that we have a duty as a country if an international court such as the Hague tried to try one of our soldiers for carrying out.
That's not what's being proposed. Hang on. So the reason why it's irrelevant is no one proposed a criminal trial. Wait, Gibbs, you just said it's pretty relevant. We're now going to stick on the relevance issue, and I'm going to show you why it's irrelevant. Did you hear him ask? Wait, okay. So did you hear this dipshit with the beard, Streamref? Did you hear him ask where we would try Americans and individuals? Did you hear him ask that?
It would be in the U.S. because it wouldn't be.
Clear, we all have beards.
Hang on a second. Did you?
They're all looking good today, boys.
There's just a very simple answer you can give. Did you hear Streamrift ask where we would try individuals criminally?
It would be in the U.S.
I'm sorry. No. It's just the question isn't would it be this or that. I'm asking, did you hear? This is a question about your sensory.
I heard it. That's why I asked that question.
So you actually didn't hear him ask.
It's called A to B.
Whether or not this.
Why do you think I asked that question, Pisco? I don't want to be a dick. So why do you think I asked that?
Your question is presupposing criminal trials of individuals, which was not captured in his question. So of course it's irrelevant because his question. His question pertained only only to whether or not there could or there does exist international tribunals to adjudicate different
and then my question is, what
international
happens
law
if they try?
issues between states, and there are such tribunals. Now America hasn't
and it's
ratified or
illegal
signed
for us
on
not to be tried there.
No,
Okay,
so here's the thing.
You might as well kick Gibbs out. This is such a derail.
No,
I am not.
It's not a derail, Pisco. Just because you don't want to talk doesn't mean it's a derail.
So
the U.S. Hague Act
no one
says
is
not
talking.
to try
No one.
And if they invade, if they go to The Hague, it's invaded.
Okay, Gibbs, shut up. Right? Okay, good. Excellent. We can't do this if we're all trying to talk at once and all going in 100 different directions at once. Pisco wants to talk about the legality when it comes to the U.S. Constitution. So
no. That's not what he was talking about, Rick. He wants to talk about these other
Stop. For the moment, let's stick to that, and then we can move on to other portions.
Well, I was trying to do that, Wick, and this is the reason I'm having a problem with this, right?
Because you're drunk. Because you're a drunk, and you're fucking wasted coming on the stream, and you're not listeling to people.
Let me.
I'm not drunk or wasted yet. I haven't done any job.
Okay, you guys both. I'm going to mute you both if you guys keep talking. Okay, let me be clear. Okay, we are at this point in time talking about whether or not it is legal. We can get to the morality of it later, and I think that will be an interesting discussion. But do we think currently that it is legal what Trump did with the strikes? That's the good question to start with. Who? Just raise your hand if you think it was legal under the U.S. constitutional law. So we got 2.5. And one guy without hands, right? So we don't know. But okay.
I would say no.
Okay, so
the whole reason I brought this up.
Yes.
Yeah, so Rick, the whole reason I brought this up, right, is because, right, this guy, Mr. Streamrift, is that your name? I'm so sorry, I didn't, I have the thing on, so I can't see names. The reason I brought this up, Streamrift brought this up, and Pisco is kind of just trying to dog on him. Well, we literally have an act from 2002. Now, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe one of our two lawyers here can explain to me what the U.S. Hague Act is that was put in 2002, which is the Protection Act, ASPA. They basically said if the Hague, an international tribunal, basically decides they're going to try a U.S. soldier, that we would invade. So when he comes to talk about the legality where these people would be tried, the answer is they would be tried in the U.S. So that's, I guess, what we can talk about. So when he wants to talk about all this international court, none of that shit is relevant. What is relevant is what would happen in the U.S.
Okay,
so I agree with him.
He's talking about the international court is because Streamrift asked him about.
He asked me whether or not there are international tribunals to adjudicate claims as between.
Extended it.
Yeah, the thought unfortunately wasn't being expanded because the question
Gibbs gave me the kill switch on your argument.
Wasn't specific to the criminal. It wasn't specific to two things: either criminal trials.
You're cooked. Can I explain it?
It wasn't. No. I'm going to finish. Sorry. I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain why this derail is a derail. So the question that Rift asked wasn't A, specific to criminal tribunals, and B, to individuals. He was merely asking the question of where international law disputes can be adjudicated. Are there such international bodies? And I listed one such body. There are other bodies as well that relate to other kinds of spheres of domain expertise, but that's just one place. Now, I suspect, as I predicted, the argument is going to be something
how much longer?
Well, how can they enforce it? That, of course, is irrelevant to the question about whether or not international law exists.
So let's assume that we're at the ICJ, and as Gibbs pointed out, American soldiers get a free pass. So when the American soldiers go out and conquer wherever the fuck they want, any court in that you're talking about says, oh, they're flying the red, white, and blue. That's up to the red, white, and blue. And if they're doing what the red, white, and blue did, they get a free pass. So is there another court that might act? Because that's
so this is the problem, right? So just to be. So
can I please finish my question? I listened to you for so long.
So you're asking. So I was correct when I interrupted you when you were asking the questions about the court. That your question is specific.
You're never correct to interrupt someone.
Your question was specific to courts that have enforcement power, that actually have the ability to enforce their judgments. And my answer to that is, as against the United States, there is no such international body. But that's just a descriptive claim. And it doesn't mean that international law doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't hew to these other principles. And I'll have you know that yes, law can exist even if there is no body to enforce it. They're not contradictory at all. Law does not presuppose some enforcement apparatus. Okay, what's the contradiction?
But the contradiction is if you can't enforce it, then the law doesn't exist. Like that. Like that's
just
how that works.
that's restating the claim.
Like, hold on, let me
dipshit.
give you an example.
Hey,
of history.
hey,
You wanna-
dipshit.
let's
That's
make it more
restating the
interesting.
claim.
Let's go.
So just
Hold on.
understand
Hold on,
what this
Great Britain-
drunk just said. What this drunk just said is
That's not this
how does,
drunk.
so I
That's
asked him the
what's
question.
crazy
Wait,
is-
I asked him
hold
the
on,
question.
you're
Wait,
acting
wait.
like-
So Gibbs,
hold on.
I asked him the
Jesus
question.
Christ.
Hold on.
Wait. I just want
I
to
would like
explain.
to answer.
I just want to
You've
explain
been
what you
talking
just
for 20 minutes.
what
Hold
you
on, just real quick.
what
Let
you
Pisco,
just said.
hold on. Let Pisco go, and then Gibbs can respond. Both of you
So-
won't interrupt each other. So Pisco, go uninterrupted.
So
and
I
then Gibbs
asked-
will respond uninterrupted.
I
Go
asked
ahead.
Gibbs, I said, well, what's the justification for the claim that law can't exist without an adjudicatory body to enforce the law? And he said, well, of course it can't, because you can't have law without an adjudicatory body that can enforce it. It's exactly circular. I didn't ask you to fucking repeat the claim. I asked you to justify it, dipshit.
Okay.
Oh well,
go
okay,
ahead,
cool. Can I answer now?
uninterrupted.
Well,
Yeah.
so since I'm a drunk, and I guess I there's this cool show on the History Channel, and I think it was on Comedy Central too. It's called Drunk History. So I guess we're gonna do some drunk history real quick and teach Pisco something, because clearly he studied a lot of law, didn't study very much history. I don't know if you've heard of this place called the Bahamas, and specifically Nassau. But the British owned that, and they had laws. And guess what happened? It became what they called the Pirate Republic, where there was literally no laws. It's maybe arguably one of the only times in history where we had a true, like, representative republic. Pirates were big on that. They didn't do the laws. They just had their own system of government. They just obeyed the British. And why was that? Because they had enough power to do what they fucking wanted, and the British couldn't do squat about it, and they had to ask the Spanish to help them take them out. Now, the reason
Thanks
I
for the
bring this
history
up
lesson,
is
Professor.
because-
Yeah, it's relevant.
Yeah, thank you. Hold on. I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you. That's just rude. That's just rude. If we're going to do the interrupt thing, I'm down to do the interrupt thing. But you don't, and we know you don't want that.
Just
because
finish
anytime
your
I do that, I
point,
will
Gibbs,
connect.
because I want to get
I will
Lactoid
finish
in
it.
on
Thank
this.
you.
Finish
I will.
your
I will.
point.
I will. Yeah, that's sorry.
Pisco will respond, and I
point
want to
is-
hear from
my-
Lactoid.
Sure. My point is this, and this is the point that I made when I was trying to make with Streamlift was going, is that might makes right. You know, y'all said y'all had this joke about this earlier or whatever, but in the United States, we have 11 super carriers. We're the most powerful country in the world. We have the ASPA. We have 2002. They basically said, if you try to put U.S. soldiers on trial, we're going to come whoop that ass. So we don't recognize international law. And when we do, we only recognize it when it's convenient to us. So when it comes to whether they're going to have this fucking trial, if they were, it's going to be in the U.S. And since we've expanded the Powers Act since fucking, which I'm sure Lactoid can go into, since fucking Bush, guess what? These soldiers, none of them are going to be tried. So guess what? As long as it's not constitutionally illegal, which I guess is the debate, then guess what? There's no international body that we have to worry about. Because guess what? We're not dead bitches. We're not the pussies that Pisco wants us to be.
So you see what happens, right?
Uninterrupted,
So the
and then we'll
people-
get to Lactoid.
I see what, are you just going to call me drunk?
uninterrupted.
The people defending this action are literally the lowest common denominator. They cannot follow the argument. The question wasn't to give a ramble about
that's right.
fucking history and the inevitability of, the futility of other bodies trying to enforce law as against the United States, something which I readily exceed is just true by virtue of the fact that America is the strongest fucking country, that no other country is going to be able to boss us around. That wasn't the question, Gibbs. The question was whether or not law entails some kind of enforcement mechanism, and you failed fundamentally fundamentally.
Law doesn't
Let him
exist.
go and interrupt.
Yeah, that's the claim I'm asking you to justify, not to repeat.
Okay,
Not to repeat.
Pisco, let's just do us six right here. Let's just use us six right here. There's six of us. If I walk up to, I don't know, Streamrift, and I come over here and I decide I'm gonna put some baby powder around my hand and I'm gonna bitch slap the shit out of him, and then I'm gonna stab him 52 times in GTA. Right? Guess what's gonna happen? If there's law, someone's gonna come enforce that crime for murder, right? Right? Someone's going to have to enforce that. Now, if there's no power to enforce that, then I'm going to go over here to the Lactoid and be like, I don't like his beard. Shank. And guess what? Now there's two people down. And guess what? If there's nobody enforce it, I can make all the laws in the world. It doesn't fucking matter. Just like The Hague. They can make all these laws, but if they can't enforce it, they mean fucking diddly squat.
So just a real quick question.
You can agree with that?
Wait, just a real quick question. If someone grabbed and graped your mother, let's say, in some island, and then the perpetrator died, and guess what? Evidence
because I
is
shanked
stale.
them? Sure.
Did
I
that
was the
person violate the law? Yes or no?
Well, if they don't
They
get
planned
fucking
on doing it
tried,
before they
then
left.
no.
Yeah, they did violate the law,
they aren't enforced.
dipshit. They did by graping your mother.
I mean, if you don't
and the
enforce the laws,
fact,
it don't
the
matter.
fact,
What's wrong?
but
It
last
doesn't matter.
word, we'll go to
You
Lactoid. Last word. The fact that you won't grant that hypothetical shows how bad faith you are.
Well, yeah, because it's
Okay.
because I'm not a dumbass like you.
Lactoid, you have some thoughts. Go
Hey, what's
ahead.
up? Wick? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I just joined in. It's a Pisco's on the panel and it's aggressive. I don't know what happened. Yeah, so I guess I don't really know exactly where we're in. I kind of jumped in and people were screaming. So I guess what's the broad question here?
The question is
So-
whether or not you would support, if it could be shown that the actions that Trump took were illegal or unconstitutional, I should say, via U.S. law, right? Would you still support it? Yes or no?
Unconstitutional via U.S. law, I would
Yeah, so
not,
it's
because my
proven-
loyalty is to America.
Right.
But international law, I mean, we break that shit all the time. Everyone kind of does. We deserve deference to it. Like, I'm not saying it's not worth nothing, but I mean, we broke international law in Kosovo. The Ukrainians did when they cluster bombed the Donbass. Russia did when they invaded Ukraine. I mean, this just happens all the fucking time. So, and personally, I don't really have loyalty to the international community.
Wait,
I do the
violations of U.S.
Constitution.
law happen all the time, and the U.S. Constitution happen all the time. That's
No,
a
I
parody.
understand that it
Okay.
happens, but what I'm saying is, like, my loyalty is to the U.S. Constitution,
Oh,
not like the international
buy that.
community
So
at large.
the reason why I start there,
Sure.
and why, frankly, I think that we should just, I don't know what StreamRift is going to do, because StreamRift has taken the, I think, untenable position that even if it were unconstitutional and illegal, that he would support the action under U.S. law. Under U.S. law, where there are courts of law. Now, it's possible.
I don't think I agree with him on that.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. It's possible that this question could be illegal and non-justiciable under U.S. law. Just putting it out there. Just because a court can't resolve it, again, doesn't mean that it's not illegal. There are certain powers that are entrusted only to particular branches, which other courts can't resolve. Doesn't mean there isn't some notion of illegality. But yeah, I think that we should start there. I think that Wick's instinct is correct. If we resolve the constitutional issue, at least the majority of the panel here, or the U.S. legality issue, will be against the strikes.
So, and that's the difficulty, though. So this just happened last night, right? I woke up and I saw this and I was like, what the fuck? Holy shit. So I haven't done a deep dive into kind of the history of, I understand that this was applied somewhat in Panama. There's some precedent here as to how U.S.
Oh, hello? Was that me or him?
It's him.
I think
I
that's
thought it
him.
was
I can
me.
hear you. What?
Okay.
We're all good now. You're self-muting, Lactoid. Please speak up.
Lactoid, you went out for a little bit.
Yeah, Lactoid, we can't hear you.
I
You're
bet
all
it's his
quiet,
mic.
too.
His string has been. He's got like a cord issue.
Give him a
He probably has to
second, give him a
unplug it.
second. But just to refer to what Lactoid's talking about, he's talking about Noriega in I think it was 1989.
Hello.
Oh, there we go.
You're
got
good.
Okay.
We hear you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, it might go out again. My other headset actually, I've got two of the same headsets. My other one actually broke, and so I used my backup, and now this one's breaking. So the gods are unfavorable to me tonight. So
Panama.
Panama, there was some historic. So the U.S. courts ruled that even if a defendant comes into the U.S. unwillingly, whether it be like through some kind of like a abduction by U.S. forces, that you could, like, if this is still like legal, like you can still prosecute them. I understand that the current administrations are
just to be different. That's whether the court has jurisdiction of you,
jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction
Right.
of you for your criminal trial when you're
there,
when you're in the United States. But that is not ruling on the legality of the abduction itself.
No, well, sure, but I'm getting there. Like I
Okay.
said, this just happened last night. I've had a couple hours here. So that's in terms of they're here now. Now, they're under U.S. jurisdiction. My understanding is that the legal justification for the abduction itself was under Article 2, the president has powers to enforce the law. And because Maduro is not the legal head of state, according to the U.S., that he was essentially just an international criminal that was apprehended by U.S. forces and then brought to the U.S.
Yeah,
This is the argument.
In my opinion,
And to be honest, like, he did steal that fucking election, right? Like, there is
no doubt,
overwhelming evidence Maduro
Fuck
is not
Maduro.
the legitimate head of state.
Yes. No doubt to me. I fucking hate Maduro. I hate these tanky communist
Great.
regimes.
Well,
I think,
everybody does.
Yeah,
Everybody does.
and they should. And
Oh,
they should.
not
And-
Biden. Biden likes Maduro.
No, I don't
don't
think.
think
Biden
likes
No.
Maduro.
No, Biden quoted. There's a quote Biden said. I quote. I stand with
Okay.
Maduro.
That's not
Okay,
that's not relevant
collateral.
right now. But no one here supports Maduro.
No,
okay?
I am, if there's one positive that will come out of this, perhaps I am hoping, obviously, for the best possible situation for the Venezuelan people, and I think that that option isn't possible so long as Maduro, or people who are his ideological sympathizers, are in power. So that I'm hoping is a, but that again doesn't justify any action when it needs to be addressed on its own terms. So with respect to the claim of U.S. authority to seize and abscond with individuals without the consent of the host nation. And that clearly, I think that would need to be derived from Article 2, but the question is, why do we think that that's derived from Article 2? It proves too much. If there were inherent Article 2 authorities to just enforce the law, what is the limiting principle there? Congress couldn't, by virtue of its legislation, therefore, pass laws to limit the ability of law enforcement to do all sorts of things, right? Like, what would be the limits on executive enforcement when we're reading into this like very, very broad, so broad, by the way, that it would have to be read to negate customary or international law or the rule of nations, which, regardless of whether or not you individually think that matters, to think that the framers were setting up a system by which the president unilaterally can bypass those things through some unspecified portion of Article 2. I think it's not clear at all. And maybe you could say, pursuant to the rule of nations, or sorry, the rule of war and the laws of nations, you could. The president has certain inherent authorities. That I would accept, but that would presuppose you acting in conformity with the law of nations. And so, to the extent that there is inherent powers, I don't think that we should read them as violating those customary rules.
I don't know about that. So, well, let me just elaborate a little bit. So the president has authority to enforce the law, right? They have this. They are the executor. They have this ability. In Iraq, for example, we blew up al-Baghdadi. I don't recall. I don't think we asked the Iraqis permission for that. And the argument was because this is not a legitimate state actor. This is just essentially some kind of international terrorist. This is some kind of like international criminal. If we're talking about state actors. If we're talking about state actors, I agree. It gets a little bit fuzzy.
We're resolving the U.S. legal issue. And in the case of Iraq, there was congressional authorization, which obviates the concerns that we're talking
Baghdadi?
About. For Baghdadi specifically.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
No, yes, there is. There's the war resolution against the Al Qaeda and related terrorist groups. That which wouldn't apply to Venezuela.
So the thing I was talking about earlier when you said it was irrelevant.
No, what was irrelevant? What was irrelevant from you was the fucking history lesson, Professor.
Well, yeah, because the reason why the history lesson was relevant is because it's the point of. Go ahead, Lactoid.
Yeah. So I guess this is my understanding is there was a 2003 bill that kind of granted the president a broad discretion when it comes to these kind of specific actions against like terrorists or after 9/11 we gave the president a whole shit ton of power, and Maduro is alleged to essentially be a narco-terrorist, right? I mean, this is what the administration is putting forward.
But hang on a second. There's no limiting principle to that interpretation. To that interpretation, what you're trying to say.
Well, the limiting principle would be, how much authority? Congress can take away their authorization, right? That's the limiting principle. Congress has ultimately war power lies within Congress. They have a standing grant to the president to take unilateral action in a whole host of situations. The Congress tomorrow, if they don't like what the president is doing, they could nullify that power that they granted the president.
Again, that's presupposing and begging the question. The question is, did they grant it in the first instance? No doubt. Congress could write in legislation to purport to redact authorities that were at least alleged to have been given. But the whole question is, were they given or not? And I don't think you really believe this, Lactoid. If America tomorrow started bombing Beijing by virtue of the resolutions passed by Congress in response to 9/11, would you say that was an authorized use of military force against Beijing? Say, Beijing, they're involved in fentanyl production, and so they're narco-terrorists.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear the argument. I think currently, as things stand, the broad authorization that we've given the president, like, let's assume that my understanding is if he was targeting like a state actor, I don't know if that would fall under the authorization. I don't know if that would require some kind of declaration of war.
Hold on, actually. Hold on.
Wait. Before you tell me to hold on.
One second.
Before telling me to hold on. If we're talking about like a state
for like 2 seconds.
Oh, he's got a thing. Okay. In the meantime,
you can argue this is the point that I made.
Let me make my money.
Let him super chat.
Go ahead, Wick.
To say, am I on the Wick show or the Pisco show? You're on the Wick show, and Pisco will behave, or there will be consequences. My listening library for $5 says almost all my favorite political streamers that love to rant. All we're missing is Prime Guy. I think we're good. $10 for polishness. To say, for the lawyers, is the executive order designated the drug runners as terrorists the only reason Trump can strike the boats?
I don't think
How
he can.
does it extend to the entire country?
That's different, right? The question about the strikes. The question about the strikes is even easier. I mean, that is just so clearly violative, in my opinion, of U.S. law, even more so than this strike against Maduro. So yeah, I think that one is just like very easily resolvable under U.S. law. It's murder. I mean, these actions are murder. But the problem, I think, with taking the Lactoid I guess Lactoid is not asserting this.
Finish my interpretation.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
Sure. So, and this is again part of the problem of this happening last night and me getting up afternoon. So when it comes to strikes on state actors, I don't know if that's broadly covered under the 2003 authorization. I know.
Yo, you went out again.
No. Oh no, you're dude. Lactoid, your headset.
You're muted, Lactoid. Muted. Lactoid. Nobody can hear you.
Now?
I don't think you can hear us.
Wonderful.
Anyway, so yeah, what I was trying to say to Lactoid is before, I guess this actually would be in defense of Pisco here. This is kind of the argument that I've made with the slippery slope where it's concerned. Like, that was the argument. If we are fighting a state actor and we've declared them a cartel, like, do we think that Maduro is actually leader of a cartel? And is the cartel the same as like Al Qaeda? I think that is something that is concerning, interesting. Like, I like on the surface, yeah, I think cartels are worse. Like, I've grown up around cartel violence my whole life. I know a lot of people that have died from cartels. I think they're just as bad as Al Qaeda, et cetera, et cetera. However, it is concerning to me that we can start labeling new things terrorist orgs. That is a little bit of a slippery slope problem that I think maybe has got some root to discuss.
Not just maybe, Gibbs.
Like the nut of the argument.
Not just maybe. Like,
no, it is not just maybe. You're right. It's not just. You're absolutely right about that. It's not just maybe. But like, I think the nugget of this issue, though, like, we've moved past that now. Like, we've moved past.
We
and now we're like,
we haven't. This is it, right?
We're doing more than that.
Wait, Gibbs.
The leader of another country.
Gibbs, this is the test, right? So we are now squarely facing the thing, right? For years, everyone was saying, "Oh, the AUMF is being read too broadly."
The thing is, American citizens die.
No. The test.
So, like, this is, I guess, this is where you and I differ. This is where you and I differ, Pisco. I guess, right? I agree. This is a slippery slope, and it is concerning. And this is the same thing with Doge, like, right? Like, I was excited about Doge. However, I'm hesitant because, like, what if someone I don't like gets in charge, right? And they start doing these things. But it's like, okay, if we go and capture Maduro because he's the leader of a cartel, okay, foreign guy, that's fine. But if we start labeling, like, I don't know, yeah, I'm going to use a lefty org because I know people know I'm a righty. Antifa, if we start capturing Antifa leaders and, like, taking them from, like, places, American citizens, that would be the bigger problem.
Right. So the time to take the stand against for American liberties is now. If you're a civil libertarian, you should be speaking up now. Why? Because you are correct, Gibbs, in your implication. Let me finish it real quick. The implication is, if this is truly, a war that's being conducted pursuant to the rules of war, the laws of war, international law, or congressional authorizations, related to that, those things, then you can target domestic enemies, right, in that sense, and use military force.
You can't.
Of course you can. In the Civil War context,
there's this thing called the Bill of Rights.
So in the Civil War context, did the Bill of Rights apply? Yes or no will be the answer. That's
Are we having a civil war?
Just answer the fucking question. Did the Bill of Rights apply in the Civil War context?
I'm going to try real hard.
Did the Bill of Rights apply?
What do you mean by apply? It was there, but it wasn't enforced.
Apply is in it's
hold on, the Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights absolutely apply in the Civil War.
And no, Pisco. Yes and no. So yes and no. That depends if you recognize like Americans, like if you consider Confederates as Americans, right? If you look at the war crimes, the arguments were committed at the
from the perspective of the American government.
Hold on, I'm just answering your question. Hold on. To answer your question, if we look at the camps, they were just as bad as the Holocaust for some of these prisoners of war for Confederates. We also look at Sherman's March to the Sea, where he burned everything. Like, that was not following the Constitution.
Listen.
However,
that's not the whole.
So, like, it's like in some ways we did.
His contention is that there could not be illegal use of military force against enemies within the country, and that's just not true. Congress could, under its authority, and the president as well, in exercising that authority, could target citizens. Yes, citizens. Citizens are allowed to be combatants. Citizens are, can be combatants under both international law and under U.S. law, such that military force is not just justified from an international perspective, but it's also U.S. legal. Now, there are Bill of Rights considerations for sure in any context, but that didn't stop Abraham Lincoln from ordering his troops to go kill American citizens under American law. The Bill of Rights was never suspended in the southern
If you
states.
get bored, can I ask you a question that might be interesting?
No, I want to go back to Lactoid. Actually, I think your questions all kind of suck.
Can you hear my? Is this mic okay?
Yeah, we
you guys
can
me
hear
okay?
you now.
Okay, good.
Unfortunately, you keep getting interrupted. But
Yeah, well, the battery dying won't be a thing anymore.
Yeah,
This plugs in directly.
hopefully,
So.
go ahead and
Yeah, I guess I don't know whether or not this was legal. I'm kind of right now leaning towards the fact that it is, just given kind of the backdrop of, I understand the one case that we had that I have not read, but just briefly was reading when I was doing some brief research for this, was involved kind of a similar situation in which a military general in Panama was taken to the U.S. not really with the permission of Panama, and jurisdiction was shown. Now, I don't know what the resolution of that was on the actual act of abducting that leader was, and the leader also wasn't like a formal head of state. Now,
there's
no.
That's the real executive just did that, and they're monitoring themselves. And you're pointing to that as what is that proof that it's legal because Reagan did it? Yeah, Reagan did a bunch of illegal shit. Inarguably illegal shit.
No,
and other times.
Like I said, I haven't looked to see what the finding of that.
It's only executive branch
the actual legality of the extradition.
You're breaking up a little bit, Lactoid.
Of the extradition. I'm not breaking up, am I?
A little bit. But keep going.
Vaguely, but we can
vaguely.
understand.
Okay. What I'm talking about, I don't know what the full legality is of the extradition in that Panama case, and I don't know for sure. This is why I said
what
I'm
do you mean
leaning
extradition? Sorry. So it wasn't extradition. We went in there and we got him. And
I'm not talking. Okay, do you want me to use the word abduction? I can use the word abduction.
That's what I want you to use.
Sure. I'm not trying to fight with semantics here. But abduction's fine. That's fair enough. That's what happened, right? Okay. But when it comes to the Panama situation, I don't know if what the ruling was on that abduction. I don't know for sure what the ruling is going to be on the abduction of Maduro. I'm leaning towards, given the broad powers given to the president to conduct airstrikes on terrorists, to with evidence from that we have, we had it for al-Baghdadi. We have some, I'm supposing, for Maduro, and we're going to see in court just what the basis of that was.
I don't think we will. No, I don't think we will. I think what we'll see is that the court isn't going to be there to resolve, the U.S. government isn't going to be on trial in the case against Maduro. So I don't know that we will be able to resolve this in the courts. I'm actually not optimistic that we will be able to. I think the only people who can really...
Okay,
but hang on. Let's stress test your inclination. Your inclination is that on balance right now, given the Noriega precedent, which again, I think is so ridiculous that we would because Reagan did something, it's probably okay to do because he did Reagan also did Iran-Contra. Reagan did a bunch of shit that was illegal, as well as other presidents, including Democrats and stuff. So we shouldn't just take the mere executive branches. Oh yeah, what we're doing here is totally above board just because we do it. I mean, come on, a civil libertarian can't be like that. All right, so let's stress that.
So just to be clear, Noriega was done under Bush, not Reagan. Just
shit.
FYI.
Yep. Okay, but Bush was there. Yeah. Bush was there. Fucking
news.
He was there. He was fucking there. He was in the room. He was in the room.
Making sure everyone knows.
Still spreading lies every time.
I'll take the elbow. You know what I'm talking about. And even let's just
because he's drunk. He doesn't know which one is which.
It's not a partisan thing. But I want to stress test this inclination because I'm asking you directly. If Trump said, I'm considering Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party to be narco-terrorists, they're the ones who are overseeing massive fentanyl production. Do you think the current authorizations for military force you would be inclined, the same way you're inclined in this case, to say that strikes against Beijing on that basis and the abduction of Xi Jinping, hypothetical, would be legal? Yes or no?
I think legal, yeah. Okay. I'm inclined to believe it's legal.
If that's the case, hold on. Let me follow up.
Hey, Pisco, you asked yes or no. I'm going to answer, but then you have to give me time to elaborate, right?
Yep.
I do think the president has broad authority. I mean, this is the commander-in-chief. The president has broad authority to do some pretty permanent, some pretty crazy shit. This was a conversation that came up back in in the Supreme Court case, the name is escaping me right now, the Supreme Court case regarding presidential immunity, right? I think the president has a tremendous amount of authority and tremendous amount of ability to do things that, when you start stress testing specific analogies, might seem crazy. Like, holy shit, the president can just fire a nuke at Beijing. This can happen. The president has the authority. Actually, yeah, the commander-in-chief has
the
tremendous
question is whether
amount of
Congress
authority
gave that authority. Did Congress give the authority for Trump to call China a narco-terrorist and launch attacks at China? That's the question.
If I'm remembering correctly, I believe the standing 2003 authorization gives the president the ability to use the military to engage in. I think they can deploy in any country. Hold on, they can deploy in any country, and they have to remove without congressional approval. They have to remove within like 30 days, 60 days, something along those lines. The president can unilaterally invade a country. In fact. And if the Congress steps, like, then they have to pull back if Congress doesn't get on board with it and doesn't declare war.
Okay,
but yeah, the president can unilaterally not declare war, but launch an invasion.
Can you think of a single use of military force by the military under the purported rationale of drug enforcement that, on your view, would be illegal? Can you think of any even hypothetical act by the military against foreign countries that you think would be illegal under the current congressional frameworks? Can you even come up with one?
I mean, it's so if the legal thing I can think about would be if the president, I'll have to go back and read the 2003 authorization. I don't, like I said, if it's on a recognized state actor. Now, your point is going to be, well, the U.S. can just say, well, we don't recognize you as a valid state actor.
Right,
like
right. That's what I'm saying. Is there any? I'm trying to think of any hypothetical in which the president designates an actor from a state as a narco-terrorist, does an action that you would say is illegal against a foreign state.
I think it can be found. I think it can be found to be illegal if there's no good faith reason to believe.
Okay, so
hold on.
Yeah.
I'm giving you my view.
Okay.
I think it could be determined to be illegal. I would think it'd be illegal if there's no good faith rationale to believe that this is like some kind of narco-terrorist and that it actually is a legitimate state actor. So to me, the legality of it actually comes down to the legitimacy of Maduro as a president.
Well, no, it would come down to whether or not Trump is acting in good faith in how he's engaging with Maduro and his beliefs regarding Maduro. But here's my problem with that.
I'll,
instead of asking questions,
understanding of if he's a state actor.
I'll just give my problem with that. If Congress has made a system, a structure that is so permissive, so as for us to have to struggle to come up with a hypothetical where we could imagine some illegal conduct with respect to military action, then we have a non-delegation problem. Congress cannot delegate its war power making authority to that level of substance, where it just says, you know what, the president can do whatever he wants to do, and in order for us
a menu to choose from, in order framework to work within.
In order for us to take that away, there needs to be some additional affirmative step by Congress. No, you would not grant this in any other constitutional context. If you said, well, Congress says the president shall have our interstate commerce legislative authority, and he can decide what it wants, you would say, of course not. That's insane. If Congress said, okay, the president can set whatever the tax rate that he wants, you would say, of course not. If Congress said we grant all appropriation authority to the president as long as he does it in good faith, then you would say, of course, that's nonsense. Congress can't do that. So don't we have a humongous non-delegation problem?
You're being dishonest here, though.
What about what I just said?
You're being really dishonest because you're reducing.
You just need to identify what's dishonest.
I'll answer it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you did is you smuggled an entire argument into a menu. So Congress gave a menu to the president and said,
2001,
here's
by the way.
list you can pick from. We're preemptively saying we know it's a busy thing being the commander in chief. We don't want to have our approval hold you up if something's important. Here's an appetizer list for war. And then if you need major war, come back. This is roughly how Iraq went, if I understand correctly. We started off saying, oh, we're just doing a little thing. Nonetheless, Congress is not de facto, and this is your dishonesty, relinquishing all of the war powers. They're giving a limited availability on it, and that's the delta.
So that's what I'm asking. Give me an example of a military. Give me an example of a military action taken by the administration that you would call illegal. Hypothetical one. What would you say? Oh yeah, that's illegal.
Well, I'm going to try to answer the question, but it might not sound like an answer up front. It'll be brief. You might not be used to this. So if Congress says we can declare war forever, imagine a 10-year war. but they only give the president 60 days of a tiny sliver, or even let's even say it was the full gambit of the powers. As the calendar goes, Congress is retaining the overwhelming majority of the wartime overseeing. Thus, they're retaining control of it. Like, they gave him a box to live in. What part of that do you find so all encompassing?
That's a question. It's not an answer to what I asked you. Do you remember what I asked you? I can ask it again.
Go for it. I appreciate.
Okay.
I'll beg your indulgence.
But
Repeat it.
first, can you just answer? Do you remember what I asked you?
I lose track of the way you mix
why
things
don't you
up.
fucking listen when I ask a question? And if you don't want to answer it,
I try to understand.
So if you don't want to answer, this is the definition of bad faith. If you're not listening to me when I'm talking, I listen when you fucking say your bullshit, and I expect the same courtesy. So the question that was on the floor was, can you think of a single military action taken by the president as against a foreign state under the current framework that you would say is illegal under U.S. law?
Or can you make up a hypothetical? And I gave you a hypothetical of a
what's the
10-year
hypothetical?
war, you fucking inbred.
Wait. So a 10-year war.
Hypothetical 10-year war.
A hypothetical 10-year war. So assume that the president says, as he's doing now, or as is being suggested he could do under the current legal theories, that under the AUMF, we have, this is part of our extended fight against terrorism. Because that is the argument. The argument is they're narco-terrorists, and this is a greater than 10 years. You agree, AUMF is greater than 10 years? Agreed, yes or no?
Well, hold up.
Was the AUMF, sorry, just answer the question. Was the AUMF passed more than 10 years ago?
What the sweet fuck?
Just
does that have to
answer
do with
the
hypothetical?
question.
Just
answer the question.
That was 2001. That was 2001. I was mixing up. Hold on. There was a 1973. There's a 1973 War Powers Act that specifically gives the president the right to engage the armed forces into a country, but they have to pull out without congressional approval. They have to pull it out within a certain amount of days. It's like 60 days. Something along those lines. Yeah, so that's 1973. Now, that was expanded in the 2001 authorization for use of force. And that also kind of gives the president the discretion to choose who they believe is related to, like, terrorist organizations that are related to the attack in 9/11, which has been interpreted pretty fucking broadly. But it seems like under either of these authorizations...
Under AUMF, you think? Let's deal with both.
Well, hold on. Let's go chronologically then. So, right here, the War Powers Resolution requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of committing the armed forces to military action, which he did, from remaining for more than 60 days, with a further 30-day withdrawal period. I guess my first question for you is, why would Congress authorize the president to deploy troops and notify them within 48 hours after he deploys troops?
So, where's the authorization?
With the
read the provision of the War Powers Act that actually authorizes it.
Now, give me a second.
And while he's going and while he's looking for that, let me read a few more super chats to make a little money here. Odashara for $5 says Maduro gone. Good. Maduro being gone because of big oil? Bad. Fair take. $5 for Marlo Kurtz to say Pisco. I love you, dude, but all this ad hoc just makes you sound like you're not bright enough to be a drunk.
I don't give a shit what you guys say. You fucking all the people in the chat who are saying, "Oh my God, just be nicer, just be nicer." If you don't wrangle these people, they will go off to the races, talk about random shit. You want me on that wall. You need me on that fucking wall.
Let me wrangle.
Before anyone goes, let me
I just want to respond to that super chat. Can I respond to super chat real quick? I just want to respond to super chat. To be fair. But you know what? I am with the ad homs. I'm come from roast shows. I just, Pisco, you should probably follow advice. Don't go down the roast battle. You'll lose that one. You might win the law battle. You're not going to win the roast battle.
Okay. Regardless, $20 from Cameraman to say, in regards to Panama, that was after months of run-up and vocal demands, though no legislative action by a Democratic Congress for action. We didn't even use heavy metal to take him into custody. This Panama 2.0 sucks. So a couple more differences just because I researched this a little bit. In Noriega, Panama declared a state of war between the U.S. and Panama before we went in. And
but did we declare war? Did we declare war in Panama?
They did.
Okay, well, I don't care what they did.
I understand, but I'm just the differences between Venezuela
what we're
and
waiting
Panama.
for.
No, but that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant to our law, right?
What we're waiting for is under the War Powers Act, where Congress has authorized any particular action.
Yeah, so go ahead and read your thing. I'll read the rest of the super chats later, but go ahead.
Sure. So, this is the section that I believe is relevant. Provides that in the absence of declaration of war.
Sorry. Can you just name the section title? The title above the section.
HJ Resolution 542.
No. The section of the Act, of the War Powers Act. Which section are you reading? There's Section 1, Section 2. There's there's a title above it: consultation, reporting, congressional action.
I was looking at the summary on the Congress page. So find the actual full.
Yeah, we want the part of the law itself that authorizes the president to take any action.
Okay, well, let me read these other super chats while we wait then. $2 from Mr. Far from Jordan says, have you heard of the strawman riot of 1922, Admiral?
Sorry, I missed that. Can you say it again? I missed.
Have you heard of the strawman riot of 1922? 1922? I don't know.
No, I have heard of the Bovendese Act though.
Okay. $2 from my listening library. It says, you're rich, Lactoid. Get a better mic and a backup.
So here's the problem,
actually,
right?
He's right. Yeah.
So the War Powers Act.
I'm spending on alcohol and cococaine, Lactoid.
Okay, I have it now.
No,
I have it now. Yeah. It's 50 U.S. Code 1543A. So subsection 1543A.
No. I'm saying within the law.
Hostilities.
I'm just talking about like the law. Okay, yeah. So give me the provision.
Yeah. So it's 50 U.S. Code Chapter 33, War Powers Resolution, Section 1543A. Section A, in general, not later than 48 hours after any incident in which the U.S. armed forces are involved in an attack or hostilities, whether in an offensive or defensive capacity, the President shall transmit to the Congressional Defense Committees, the Committee on Foreign Relations of the Senate, and the Committee on Foreign Affairs of the House of Representatives a report on the incident, unless the President otherwise reports the incident within 48 hours pursuant to Section 1543 of this title, or has determined prior to the incident and so reported pursuant to Section 1549 of this title that the United States Armed Forces involved in the incident would be operating under specific statutory authority within the meaning of Section 1544B of this title.
So here's the question: is that provision of law that you just read a reporting requirement for the president, or is that authorization to take particular action?
Well, I think it removes the argument that he needed to consult Congress before we launched the attack to get Maduro.
So we're not saying
authorization with the conditional.
Hold on. Wait.
We're not saying that.
Pisco, hold up. Are you denying that one of the main legal gripes, maybe not you, but one of the main legal gripes that I've been hearing is that he should have consulted Congress
from a policy perspective
before he launched this?
No, so yes, people are making the policy argument that he should have consulted with Congress.
But legally, he doesn't have to.
Legally, he's required to after a certain amount of time. But the question isn't what.
But before he goes,
the question. Sorry, Lactoid. I'm not going to get fucking distracted. The question isn't pursuant to the reporting to the the fucking policy arguments made by Democrats and people who are on Twitter. What do they say? The question is, under the War Powers Act, where does it authorize particular military action? Or is the War Powers Act better read as a restriction on the president's authority and providing specific reporting requirements, which is the better interpretation, that the War Powers Act is a grant of a 60-day fun zone anytime you want to do anything you want, or that the War Powers Act is restraining control and putting reporting requirements in place?
Sure, it's restricting the president's war powers. It does, but it specifically allows the president to commit U.S. forces without congressional. Hold on. Without congressional authorization, as long as it's reported.
Where does it authorize that? Wait, where does it authorize that?
Hey! Stop talking for a second, okay? You just let me finish. We can commit troops, and then without congressional knowledge, without letting them know, can just do it, right? And then within 48 hours, has to give them.
That's what it requires. It requires reporting. It doesn't authorize the underlying act. It doesn't. It doesn't. Where does it authorize it?
Pisco. Within 40 hours, has to notify Congress. So You say it's a policy argument. That's not how I.
No, but I'm not talking about it. I'm not talking about it. No. I'm talking about it. Wait. Lactoid. Stop.
Hold on. Just hold on. All of you. Both of you.
I'm going to finish my point.
Let Lactoid finish his point. And
Yeah.
then Pisco, you respond. Lactoid, go ahead.
Right. It also puts the restriction that you can commit force that within if you cannot commit forces for longer than 60 days without congressional approval, and then 30-day extensions beyond that from Congress. And so the question is, does the president have to even consult with Congress beforehand? I heard you make the argument that he had to earlier when you were comparing it to China, when you were comparing it to other countries.
No, I didn't. You fucking liar! When did I say that was? No, I never made an assertion that was hypothetical directed toward you. You're fucking lying.
I said I heard it. I also said if you're not making that argument, fine. Maybe I misunderstood. But of course, charity is just not a concept to you.
You didn't. Wait, no. You didn't hear me. Sorry. No. Stop.
Hey, no, Pisco, you're an asshole, dude, and you're gonna let me finish a sentence.
This is such
then
bullshit.
You can talk.
You're
That's how that
accusing me
works.
of bad faith. You're lying.
I'm so sorry. No. You hold on. I said you're an asshole. I didn't say you're bad faith.
Sorry, you are accusing me of not having charity, lacking charity, and doing and understanding, interpreting you.
No, I'm talking about charity.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Wait. Stop.
Are we gonna?
Wait, no. We are. You just said I didn't accuse you of bad faith, and I said, and you just said that I wasn't being charitable. Isn't interpreting someone uncharitable bad faith? Yes or no?
So interpreting somebody uncharitably can be bad faith.
Yes. So you are accusing me of bad faith, right? Wait, so Lactoid, you are accusing me of bad faith?
The specific thing I'm talking about when it comes to lack of charity here is, first of all, you're consistent.
Are you accusing me of bad faith? Yes or no? Are you accusing me of bad faith?
Which you constantly do.
Yeah.
Like now I think you're acting bad faith, actually. Now the fact that you're constantly interrupting me, I do think that you're acting bad faith right now. I think that oftentimes in conversations you can just don't have the charity to even listen to other people's arguments. And then you're going to bitch that other people don't listen to your arguments, right? Because of course, you just don't even let them finish their sentence. So don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do.
I'm telling you what to do. Move on, bitch.
I can rant about this for the next 30 minutes if I want to, right? The only
person
that has the ability to stop me is Wick. He is the only person that has the ability to stop me.
Okay. I will stop you if it gets boring to me, but go ahead. Be brief and concise.
Sure. I'm going to ask Pisco to listen to me, as opposed to interrupt me. So, if we're talking about, so he doesn't have to let Congress know before he does it. So, whatever legal theory about that being incorrect, I think is obviously untrue. The question of, does he have Article 2 authority to initiate these strikes in the first place? I'm going to repeat what I said before because maybe Pisco didn't hear me. I don't know for sure. I'm leaning towards yes, just given historically U.S. actions regarding presidential actions on airstrikes on terrorists, on narco terrorists. I haven't seen any kind of strong legal authority demonstrating that the president has broken the law here. If this happens to shift, if the Supreme Court actually looks at this and says actually the presidents that have been doing this, they have been violating. They're going beyond the scope of Article 2 authority. Then sure, then that would be illegal. It's what it seems like it's been happening. And if you want to roll back the tape and look at my position from the very beginning, is I have not taken a ultra strong stance that, of course, the president is justified here. What I've said is I'm leaning towards the president being justified under Article 2, but I am not convinced when you say, can the president unilaterally launch a strike without congressional approval? That is absolutely true. He does not need congressional approval before launching a strike, whether it be on Beijing, whether it be on Iraq, whether it be in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get distracted. The claim is the War Powers Act. This is your claim. I'm going to ask you if it's your claim or not. You said the War Powers Act authorizes the president to take certain military action abroad. Is that your claim, yes or no?
Yeah, it obviously, hold on. It obviously authorizes him to take some military action abroad, of course.
Where, and I'm asking, where in the War Powers Act does it authorize the president to take any military action?
It authorizes him to take military action. In other words, he couldn't do it beyond 60 days, but within those 60 days, he is authorized to do so.
I'm asking where it authorizes him to take action within 60 days. Where?
If you're okay, listen. If you're talking about the underlying authorization of any kind of military action the president can take, their argument is Article 2.
No, I'm asking you.
If you're talking about,
didn't you make the claim that the War Powers Act authorizes the president to take action within 60 days? Wasn't that your claim? And not inherent powers. You said the War Powers Act. So I'm asking where in the War Powers Act does it authorizes him to take any military action?
So I was bringing up the War Powers Act and specifically in response to your line of argumentation as to, do you think the president can use Article 2 and just unilaterally launch an attack on China without consulting with Congress first? Can you unilaterally launch an attack on any other country without discussing with Congress first? I'm talking about war powers in the sense of he does not have to go to Congress first. Can the president do illegal actions without going to Congress first? Yes. Okay, fair enough. But he doesn't have to go to Congress first.
Do you think I'm getting distracted, Lactoid? No, the question is your claim. You said the War Powers Act authorizes the president to take certain military action. I'm asking where in the War Powers Act
I answered that.
Where? I haven't heard an answer. Wick, did you hear an answer? Where is it?
What was my answer? What was my answer? Did you listen? Repeat my answer back to me.
What?
I didn't hear an answer to my question.
Hold on.
I didn't hear an answer to my question.
Repeat what I said. Repeat what I said.
What you said was, if I was talking about the argument that they had to go to Congress for China or this and that, and maybe inherent powers with respect to Article 2, and I'm not saying that it would happen to everything, and I was responding to your hypothetical.
You're not really repeating what I said.
So in sum and substance, you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question. The question I asked was about what is contained in the War Powers Act.
Give me my full answer.
So what you taught, I just gave you in sum and substance your answer that you're referencing. You were.
You did not give me in sum or substance my answer.
Yes, I did.
Will it help if I? No. Will it help if I give you what I think Lactoid is pointing to? Maybe it will translate a little bit. Would that help it?
I don't think it would help because I'm looking for
specific. Wick's not bad faith, so maybe he can say what we're talking about.
I don't think it will help because what I'm asking for right here is text. There is a law, right? The law is a collection of text. It's not that long. It's about 5 pages long. I am asking for the textual citation. What are the words used that authorize military action of a given kind? And I haven't heard anything sounding like a quote. I haven't heard anything sounding like a reference to a specific. The only thing that was read was about reporting requirements, not about authorization for particular military action. That's why I think it won't help for you to distill what he's saying, because I haven't yet heard a citation that's applicable.
Go ahead, Wick.
With the left, well, someone said this in the chat. I think with the left.
I want Wick to go ahead and give his take.
I just want to ask with the lefties.
Please, Gibbs.
I was just saying with the lefties respond. Okay,
I'll give you a second. Okay.
Go ahead, Wick.
But what I heard, at least Lactoid's argument, is that the justification for the strikes is through Article 2 powers granted to the president to enforce the law, and that the war, what was the name of the specific 1973
War Powers Act?
The War Powers Act does not restrict him from doing so.
Yeah, but that's
beyond.
But that's you agree that
it does not restrict. It does not restrict that he would have to go to Congress first. Exactly.
Okay.
So now, Pisco.
I'm not going to get distracted, dude.
Pisco, you're saying. Hold on. You're saying I'm not going to get distracted, but Wick heard my argument, and for some reason you didn't. Do you have any idea as to why that is?
So I'm not going to get distracted. The question
because he listens so well.
The question isn't does the War Powers Act stripped any kind of constitutional authority the president has. That wasn't the claim made by Lactoid. What Lactoid says is that the War Powers Act grants him authority. Now, Wick, you understand the difference between something purporting to take away
restricting and granting
authority, right? And you understand that that Lactoid's claim was that the War Powers Act granted. He wasn't refuting the notion that I was giving that it took away inherent power, because I never made that claim.
He might be wrong that it granted him, but I think it's overall.
Wait, no. I need him to acknowledge. Are you wrong? Because the thing is, this entire time I've known what the War Powers says, and the War Powers explicitly says that this should not be read to authorize the action of any particular hostility. So I just want Lactoid to just admit he was wrong.
If he's good faith, if we fucking if the left be okay if we captured Netanyahu and put him on trial, would they do?
Let's not distract. So to be clear,
why don't you
the War Powers Act, which the claim was that on his cursory reading,
Oh, so
this
he's not gonna
granted
answer. Got it.
that this granted the president authority to take military action,
You call that running.
even though the War Powers Act specifically disclaims that interpretation by its text. And my question for Lactoid
but
is, when you said that, were you wrong?
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rest the understanding of my answer. Wick understood it. I think the audience understands it. Here's
Yeah.
what I think happened.
We all understand.
Here's what I here's what I think happened.
Pisco's running from my question.
I think that in response to the claim of without congressional approval can he do XYZ. When I said it grants the authority to that he can do that without congressional without congressional approval. When you say, well, but no, you use granted wrong. Actually, it doesn't restrict his ability to do so without congressional approval. If you're saying that the semantics here are critically important between my usage of the term granted compared to not restricted, fair enough, okay? But what I think is happening is that the reason why you're hyperfixating on this point, okay, and it's the reason why you behave the way in every panel you do, including this one, is you're just looking for an optics win.
No,
you're hyperfixating on a very specific semantic issue.
No,
you're hyperfixating on a very specific semantics issue.
No,
this is why.
We'll move on. It's embarrassing at this point. It's really embarrassing. So we can move on. I'm cringing. So we can move on.
My question either.
No.
We can move on.
And this is the reason why. Good for you. Good. Now, Wick, this is the reason why. When Wick said, I think I know what's going on, and he recounted a perfect understanding of what my point was. Despite the fact that me and Wick don't agree most of the time, but for some reason you can't. And it's because of the way you operate.
Listen. Wick understood the dilemma that you walked into, which is that your claim, faithful representation as you're claiming it is, isn't the original claim that the War Powers Act authorizes particular military action. So yes, I'm happy to move on. And we all agree that the War Powers Act is a restriction. Wait. But this is what it leaves us with. What it leaves us with is, well, given that the War Powers Act is a restriction on presidential authority in some respect, it's, having congressional reports, from where does the authority derive from the president to take this action? Because we all agree now, no one should be talking about the War Powers Act. What they need to be talking about, unfortunately, and the only thing possible that people will cite to is the AUMF and related authorities. And that's why you need to make the claim.
Why in Article 2?
Oh, okay, but you think it's an inherent Article 2 power to, I guess, attack any nation for any reason. Is that your claim?
That would be if the argument, as I understand it, from that side, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And to be clear, I don't agree with this argument. Like, I think it's specious. I think it's wrong. But the argument, as I understand it, is that Article 2 grants authority to the president to enforce laws, and because Maduro is not a state actor, because he is illegitimate, that it authorizes them to treat him as an international criminal and take unitary action against him.
Here's the problem with that interpretation, Wick.
Argument.
It's that the Constitution isn't a labeling document, right? It isn't a question, like the fundamental powers of the respective branches don't change just because you name something that is obviously the taking of warfare, bombing places, using the military, abducting a leader of a country, whether he was legally under the Venezuelan law
I agree
installed
with you,
or not.
Pisco.
No, I know.
Like,
I'm fighting your. I'm fighting your good faith representation. I'm sorry. I'm saying.
But you have that problem. Hold on.
Let Pisco finish, and we'll get the rest of you.
The problem is, like, if you take this kind of approach,
30 minutes,
that the Constitution is like mere guidelines, and you can like totally evade its restrictions by just it's literally what Russia tried to do by saying it's a special military operation. Only in our case, it's a special law enforcement obligation, as though that fundamentally changes the constitutional obligations in the Constitution. Now, is there a possible way in which enforcement of the law could be done by the military in certain cases? Sure. I'm not saying that that's impossible. Is there a possible way that enforcement of the law could be done legally in foreign nations, even of domestic U.S. law? Sure.
Let me ask you this, Pisco.
But not in this case.
Would you be okay with would you be okay with these strikes if they had gotten permission from Congress? If Trump had gone through Congress had authorized this and said, we're going to strike.
No.
He said,
I just said no.
Yeah. So
you would not. Okay.
No.
So even if it was legal,
he wouldn't give a shit.
Well, no. He would say that would still make it illegal.
No, I would say it would be.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would say that
his argument that even if Congress said yes, they would still be illegal. Is what his argument is.
Well, no, that's not what I just said.
No, I don't think he
That's
said
not what he
that.
said. He
Wait,
just
wait,
said
I'm
he
not
just-
talking
I
about
think he's just saying-
any statute. I'm talking about like
God
any kind of
damn
statute.
it.
I'm saying like let's say he had informed some congressional oversight committees beforehand, and they were like, yeah, I think that's fine. You think that would justify his strikes?
No, they would. No, Congress would need to authorize the use of military force in this case. And if that happened, it would be legal. But just because it's legal for me under the U.S. framework and under current view, legal is a necessary condition for me to think it's ethical, not a sufficient one.
Sure. And
Okay, now I'm
you think
annoyed.
the 2001?
Okay, hold on.
You think the
Stop,
2001?
Stop. Now I'm annoyed because if you think it's legal or illegal, you'd still be against it. Why don't we just get to the morality of it?
Because
Thank you. I've been trying to get to this.
Hold on.
Hold on. Can I talk now? I've been waiting 45 minutes.
No, hang on a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Because most people, if you determine this is a quick way to do it, not necessarily just for me. Like, listen, I think in many ways under U.S. law, the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan were legal. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily justified, and that's under U.S. law. I mean, but put that to the side.
Sure,
the reason
agree,
I start
right?
there, the reason I start there is because I think the answer that it's illegal is one that appeals to a lot of people. I think who've read the issues, and I think if we resolve it, we can all be on the same page because most of us will agree if it's illegal, we'll be against it, and I think it is illegal. So that's why I started there. Is because I think it has the tendency to resolve it for the people who think it's against the law.
Sure.
I mean, we fought a whole
I think the more interesting conversation would be the morality conversation. That's why I wanted to talk about that. But Gibbs, you've been waiting for so long.
Gibbs. Sorry, not Gibbs. Wick. I take issue with that because this entire the reason that we care so much about this specific instance isn't even strictly speaking for the sake of Venezuela, even though that is a concern, the people of Venezuela, absolutely concerned. I am most concerned about the structural erosion of this country, with the president taking all sorts of powers that he does not have and using military justifications and emergencies to justify both in his attempts to do so legally and ethically, infringements of liberty domestically. So because I am have an allegiance to America, I actually really do give a fuck whether or not the president is following the fucking Constitution. I don't take this view that it's just like a procedural hang-up.
I agree it's important, and I think that, again, I don't disagree that it is illegal.
Okay.
I just think that, at least for the non-lawyers on the panel, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to go there.
Right, the morality is just something I'm more able to engage with. Does that make sense?
I'm happy to go there. But what I don't want is for people to be like, oh, why start with legality if it wouldn't resolve it for you? Well, for me, it's just a necessary condition, and so I need to think about it before I can make a conclusion.
Got you. Gibbs, go ahead.
All right. I have a brief, after this 5 minutes, I am in a monologue for a second. It's only going to be a brief one, though. So it'll be less than 4 or 5 minutes, I promise. Here, real quick, first, I want to say I was accused
Please don't make it more than like a minute and a half.
It won't be. It's a joke, Wick. We got jokes here. I just want to say that, listen, as a drunk and a drug-addled person that I've been told I am, I want to say, I know that Pisco's making some good money because, dear Lord, whatever cocaine he's on right now, I need that dealer's number, pass him to me. Secondly, I want to go into something important here. Like, we're talking about, first, if this was Netanyahu, a good portion on the left and a good portion on the right would be gung-ho about this. They would pick up Netanyahu, they'd fuck this guy, send him to trial. Good job sending the Marines or SEAL Team 6 or whatever to snap him. Like, literally, it would be, what was that movie, Air Force One, where they sent him in, they capture the guy, and then, after that, the movie happened.
Yeah, not
like,
me.
That would be okay.
Yeah, not me. Yes, somewhat.
Hold on, Pisco. I just waited 45 minutes. Just bear with me for like another 30 seconds.
He can't help himself.
I know, it's fine. I get like that too. It's fine. Here's the last part here. This is the important part, is what's next. That was the title of this panel, right? Is what's going to happen in Venezuela next. And I think, like, one, we've talked about the legality. I've admitted there's a slippery slope I'm concerned about. I think what's important now is to talk about what's next, right? We went in there, we did something we didn't do in Afghanistan, we didn't do in Iraq. We literally went in there, whooped their ass, and got their president in less than 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. We got it real fast. We got it done. We were effective. This is much more like Panama than it is like Iraq. The problem I'm having is, right now, I think the what's next question is the most important. Because what are we going to do? Are we going to annex it? A lot of people don't seem like they're on board with that. I want to have Venezuela become Grain or Texas. Most people don't want that. We have other people going, oh, we're going to install this other opposition leader. Well, Trump just said the opposition leader today was a fucking idiot. So clearly the plan is not put her in power. So is it put a friendly guy that's a dictator for U.S.? Okay, well, cool. Well, who is that? What's the plan. What are we going to do? Can we talk about that? I would like to talk about Western Hemisphere issues, and this is one of them. Can we talk?
No, I think it's really interesting some of the things that you talked about, Gibbs. I don't think that there are things that people aren't necessarily talking about with some of the kind of policy questions that you're offering. But the one thing I want to know, and I think maybe Wick is smiling at this very notion as well, is it totally destroys the notion that this is a simple law enforcement measure. Everyone's talking about oil and whether or not like it's the right thing for Maduro to run the regime. Everyone's, Trump is speaking in terms of America running the country. And so the one thing is there are some interesting policy questions that Gibbs brings up, but the fact that he's bringing that up and not like, oh, we really need to enforce the drug laws, says the administration that just pardoned the fucking former president of Honduras.
I don't like the drug laws. I just talked about getting your dealer's number.
I get you for sure. But it just, can we all agree that the official stated basis of the abduction of Maduro is complete garbage? What they're trying to, they don't even have a coherent message on it publicly outside of those specific legal channels.
I agree with you, Pisco.
Yeah, so
I agree with you 100% on that. Like, I wish you would just say it's for the oil, and Trump has kind of started doing that.
Right,
I wish you would.
When you say
they got the oil,
we already took an oil tanker.
When you say it's for the oil, it's like, did Congress authorize the president?
We already
took
a tanker, Pisco. You know this. We already took an oil tanker, right?
Yeah, but that's not.
Another one.
Do you understand the purport? So first of all, A, I disagree with that action of taking the tanker. I do disagree with that action. But B, but it happened. The official legal reason.
So you think this isn't about oil?
I'm not saying it's not about oil. What I'm telling you is it's not about law enforcement of drug trafficking. That's what I'm saying. Is that's the lie, and that's the kind of.
Why isn't it? Why isn't it?
Because you just said
They're
it's not
drugs here. They won't handle it. We had to go in and take care of them.
No, because the administration.
That's how we sell an American people a war.
The administration,
and then we get the oil, and the military complex gets their money.
The administration has shown that,
and you don't even want to talk about that.
The administration has
almost
shown
2 hours here. We've been listening to you patiently.
The administration.
We have listened to you so patiently.
The administration. You asked the question, right? Like, how do we know it's not about?
We don't like Trump. We get it, but we got to move it forward.
So you asked the question, which was,
I had 2 hours for this, and I didn't realize we're not even going to get to the question's the morality of it. We've already beat the law thing to death here. So then you go, well, is this an enforcement action? Dude, shut the fuck up. Let's just talk about what is in the morals of it. Like every person on this panel, including the host, has expressed interest in.
Maybe people will think maybe the motives of the country that's initiating this action bears on the morality. Don't you think that matters? What is motivating the country?
I'm just going to motivation.
So hang on. I'm just going to ask the question to Stream Rift just to make sure that he is not bogging this conversation down with meta regarding the relevance of why I brought shit up. So the question is as follows: is the motivation of a country relevant to whether or not you think that action that they're going to take is justifiable? Yes or no? That's the question.
Can you make any point in under 10 minutes?
So the question is a simple one. Is the motivation of an entity?
Can you make any point in less than 10 minutes?
So the question is, does the motivations
any at all?
Does the motivations of an actor's what they want to actualize, does that affect how? Yes. So it is. Can
you make a point in less than 10 minutes?
So you would grant that what I said was relevant just then when I was talking about the probable motivation of our country.
I'm just saying you
so why did you? So when you said it was. So when you said it was irrelevant, that was when you said it was irrelevant.
Okay.
Just be clear. So when you said it was irrelevant, you were wrong. So maybe you should shut the fuck up. So maybe you should shut the fuck up, right?
Right.
Wonderful. So
both of you. Let's just real quick.
Let me can I ask a question?
Is it relevant?
This is directly, I would assert it's relevant.
Of course it is.
I'm not disagreeing that. I'm not disagreeing that. Don't assume what I'm saying. Please, let's just listen. I'm not assuming that it's not relevant to bring up the stated motivations of the administration. Of course, it's relevant, but to me, it doesn't even have to be the main motivation for it to still be a good faith argument. So, for example, you can say like, okay, like I have multiple motivations here, right? I got one motivation, which is like, let's say a third on the list, but it's still strong motivation of like enforcing law and order, stopping the narco terrorists, et cetera, which I mean, they've been complaining about for months. Trump has said this is like a stated goal, even if there are other motivations, which there obviously are, the oil running the country, et cetera, which I'm a little bit scared of, right? I'm a little bit skeptical of these other motivations, but I don't think the existence of these other motivations nullifies that law and order motivation. I think that is enough to justify the action. Even if there's like other benefits.
Ethically justify or legally justify?
Even ethically justify it, for sure.
So the mere existence of a drug trafficking motivation, even if it's let's say it's significant, but it's just not
It's
predominant.
going to be significant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it's insignificant, but it's significant. But the overwhelming reason, in a but-for cause, a necessary cause, are these other reasons related to regime change, oil. It's what everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
You would say the mere fact that one of the okay, go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that can make it ethical. Now, obviously, the ethics encompasses more than just law or just what like the stated motivations are law. So I'm very, very hyper fixating on the argument of like to what extent does the stated motivations impart some level of morality on the action. Yeah, I think that's totally fine, right? I could be prosecuting a murderer. Let's say let's say the first motivation that I have is because I fucking hate this guy, and the second motivation I have is he's a blood cold, like he's a stone cold fucking murderer, and he kills children.
I don't.
It's like I can. My hate. Now, number one motivation is not enough, but number two motivation certainly is. Even if it's my number two motivation.
The reason why the predominance of one motivation versus another is relevant because it gets to the underlying credibility of the administration, which is always going to be relevant when we're relying on true statements and assessments made by that regime.
What does it have to do with the morality of how to deal with a country after you took out their leader?
It is relevant, but do you really, after you just got dog walked on the relevance point before, do you really want to question me on that? And do you want to waste all of our time with your stupid fucking interjections?
I always ask in good faith.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference.
I'm just asking you. We just had a complete dog walk on motivation being relevant, and I'm asking you: do you want to go through that painful, embarrassing exercise one more time? Do you want to go through it again? Do you want to get embarrassed again on the relevance of the regime's credibility as to factual assessments?
I would like to talk about what's next. Let's talk about what's next.
I would like to.
Wait. Let me defend streamer for a second.
Okay.
Like I agree, it's relevant, but he could simply say like it's so far down the totem pole as to essentially be irrelevant. It could be someone like, well, I don't, Maduro's left-handed, and I think left-handers are worse a little bit, or whatever the fuck. Yeah, like it.
Would you say that about the Iraq War? Huh? It's not the fact that they're liars about weapons of mass destruction doesn't bear on what we would assess about that.
Hold up. Yeah, but maybe in his evaluation, and this is me just being charitable, okay? Maybe his evaluation is he doesn't particularly. Maybe you should try it sometime. Maybe he doesn't particularly value the this when it comes to like the stated primary motivation.
Maybe he's okay. That. Wait, Lactoid. Maybe he should say that instead of saying it's not relevant. It's not relevant. It's because the thing is, what I'm going to throw at you guys is what is the first thing that people say?
I said that multiple times.
So I'm going to say, what is the first thing that people say in response to the Iraq War when they're talking about how bad it was? They say they lied about weapons of mass destruction. And so for you guys now to say, the credibility and the lies of an administration aren't relevant to how people ethically assess the culpability of the action or his rightness or wrongness. That's what you said. How is this relevant?
No. Let me respond. That was totally off base.
I will in a second.
It's not exactly what happened.
I'm going to actually put this out there to you, Pisco, right?
Yeah.
Like, Trump is just saying it's because of the oil. He's not actually.
He's being more honest. Yes.
He's saying,
that's what they got.
But Wick, you're doing it too,
we need
right?
More of that.
Wick, you're doing it too.
He's doing it too.
I'm not saying that there are times in which the administration isn't being upfront with its rationale. What I'm contesting is the notion that their credibility isn't relevant. Not whether in one instance.
Wait, hold on. Is it better or worse? Is it better than or worse than what Bush did when it's like invade Iraq for oil, but we do all this other bullshit? Or when it's like Trump going over.
Can I make one point?
It's obviously worse.
The reason why the reason why the two examples that you put forward are like actually it actually disproves I think what you're saying, because when we're talking about evaluating the credibility of the administration, what the concern with the Bush administration when it came to they have WMDs was not like they put it in some legal filing. It was that in order to sell the war to the American people, they lied and said that there was WMDs, despite there was no evidence of there being any WMDs. But when it comes to this situation, the administration is being brutally honest as to what their primary motivations are, which is we want the oil. We want to remove this anti-U.S. regime from power. We don't like them. And there's other motivations as well. We think they're undemocratic, which that's true. It is an undemocratic regime. And then somewhere on the list is also they're narco-terrorists, which is a sufficiently, in my opinion, a sufficient reason to potentially launch Article 2 to launch that strike.
So that's you trying to apply what the relevance of a government's or credibility with respect to their truth statements. But of course, that isn't what the question was just then. The question
isn't relevant.
You guys are the ones wondering, why do I care about the credibility of the administrations? Because
I'm wondering why we don't do super chats,
no,
Pisco.
So it's not
Can we
just
do super chats?
It's not just. It's not just.
Let him finish.
It's not
Super
just.
chats. Super chats.
It's not just with respect to their self-serving statements or their admissions of banditry and whatever the fuck they're saying right there, but it's also relevant to the facts on the ground. We are relying on reports and factual assessments made by the administration. So of course, when we are having to have so much of our information be funneled through the lens of intelligence agencies and a government apparatus, of course it's relevant, which is what everyone now should grant after we were derailed by this dipshit. It's relevant to assess the credibility of that administration, yes or no. Let's just make sure that we all agree on that and don't have any more fucking stupid interruptions questioning whether what I say is relevant. What you guys do is irrelevant blather fucking historical lessons. What I do is relevant.
So
hey, check this out. There's this cool thing called a mirror. You might want to check that out.
Real quick, please. Just to back Pisco up just a little bit on this. Like, one of the reasons that I am not, I'll just give you my take. I'm not against regime change on principle, right? On a principle level, I can imagine plenty of scenarios where I would be okay with going into a country to change a regime for a variety of reasons, or to even to just abduct a head of state for a variety of reasons. But I don't trust the Trump administration on anything they say. And so I would not trust the Trump administration to engage in any of these actions, because they have demonstrated that they are willing to lie, obfuscate, and just simply make shit up, right? In order to get what they want.
Let me just engage with that, Wick.
In that sense, Pisco is correct, right?
It's relevant. It's something any sane person is going to consider.
Wick, I want to engage with that, Wick, real quick. So, like, to your point, you just made the point, Wick. So I'm gonna embrace my normie people. I'll give
you an example, right? Like, I normally would be okay trusting Lactoid to hold my wallet, right? Like, hey, I got to go somewhere. I don't want to carry my wallet. I trust Lactoid to hold my wallet.
When wouldn't
I wouldn't trust, right, some rando homeless guy to do the same.
Whoa. Classes.
Wait, hold on. Let me engage with this quick. All right, this is the problem I have when you say this. Right, this is the problem, and it's a big one. Right, as a Texan and someone that's relatively new to the internet world, like, or at least this side of it, I gotta say, this is a common sentiment from like everybody I know. Like, oh, the government, don't trust them fuckers. So when you're going, oh, I don't trust the Trump administration, I go, oh, well, hold on. I understand that. When you go, I don't trust the government, I don't trust Trump specifically, I go, wow, I felt like you feel right now for my whole life. Like, I don't trust any of these men. So, like, why? But I don't trust
him because of objective actions that he has taken.
Okay, and I don't trust these people because of objective actions they took each time.
On an honesty scale, who's more honest, like Trump
Bush
or the average Democrat? You're going to say the average Democrat, like,
wait, do you not believe that he wants the oil?
No. Yeah,
let me ask. Like, it seems like the things that you're saying, like, if I was to suspect Trump is lying, I'm not saying he's like always a truth teller, but if you're going to suspect he's lying, I would expect him to come out and say things.
That's one way to put it.
That is one way to put it.
No one says that he lies about everything. No one says he lies about everything.
I was literally just talking, right? And we're talking, and the conversation is specifically about his statements regarding his motivations. Am I wrong? Have we moved on from that?
No. The credibility of determination.
That's what you're talking about.
Sorry, the inconsistency in the official positions of the administration does bear on credibility, for sure, and we can grant one or the other, but credibility doesn't just pertain to the specific issues here. Credibility is all-encompassing about the character and nature.
What we're trying to say is we've had specific examples. Excuse me, you've been interrupting everybody. Listen, the problem I have with what you and Wick are proposing is when I look back before Trump, I can think of specific examples from Democrats, from Republicans, where I trust them. I'm like, give them the benefit of the doubt. We're in America. Let's let the president do what's right. Well, I want them to do what's best for the nation, even if it's who I don't like, or even if it's on my side. And each time they've done shit, and I go, holy shit, I don't trust this motherfucker. Bush, for example, I talk about how much I love Bush. Guess what?
They didn't do what we all wanted, right? The WMDs, we found some chem weapons. We found none of these nukes. Guess what? What else we found? Oh, we found a lot of oil. We took that shit. If he just said, "I'm there for the oil," I'd be way happy.
Okay,
Obama,
you win. Credibility's irrelevant.
Credibility's
irrelevant. Credibility's irrelevant.
Biden. Oh,
Just shut the fuck up.
credibility's irrelevant. So wait, hold on.
We were talking to Wick, not you.
I'm almost done. So when you Wick, you go and tell me this.
In this case specifically,
it's no
right?
different.
Like
But
the idea that we are going to go in to do regime
yeah,
change.
but wait, my argument is welcome to the party. That's how we feel for years.
Oil is not.
Yeah, we're not having a fucking therapy session with
Oh
you.
well, good, and that's every time any of these presidents do shit. And you're telling me like it's something brand new.
Let's read my super chats. We'll get.
I'm just surprised you're saying.
Yeah, I understand. $20 from Pondering Politics to say I'm Team Wick and Pisco in the debate, but Lactoid, you're looking great with that glow up, bro.
Yeah, I like the glow up.
Gibbs is Andor. Is Andor the best Star Wars in 30 years or the best Star Wars ever? I accidentally posted this in Pisco's chat. Well, fair enough.
Maybe ever. Maybe
I appreciate it, Josiah. Thank you.
It's right after the original Thrawn.
And this is me hungover. So imagine how I look when I'm not hungover. It's crazy.
Shit.
I'm fucking beautiful.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disney's still frustrated with Star Wars.
$5 from
the real bad.
To say Trump is just trying to fix the deportation issue, and in typical Trump fashion, he overacted. Now he's stealing foreigners from other nations. Okay, well, thank you for that. $10 from Audacity to say Trump admin will probably cite the War Powers Act Section 2, Subsection C, Part 3. If pressed on it, seems like we are in a spot where the Trump admin expects impeachment after midterms and is deciding to become worse.
Yeah, but the thing is, as we just went through, that doesn't authorize any particular engagement.
We went through that.
Yeah, so people who are citing that just like don't understand. Like it's literally the opposite. It was done to restrict the use of force, at least in some way, through reporting requirements.
Okay, $10 from President USA Venezuela to say, 1, given Maduro's pajama abduction, can we agree men look bad when wearing sweatpants in public? And 2, was the U.S. bombing Chavez's tomb illegal or merely cool and ultra Chad when it blasted to smithereens?
Right, so that's actually a really relevant point. No. That last point is really relevant because there are that's related to the legality argument, right? Which is, well, this was a law enforcement action and the military action was like conjoined to the law enforcement action. And so in order to have the law enforcement action, you needed the military action for a lot of reasons. We already think that, or at least I think that that's illegal. But even if you were to grant that law enforcement action were legal to do in this context, and that there was this inherent authority to have military power adjacent to that law enforcement authority for the purpose of effectuating it, you still have no way to resolve the bombing of the Chavez site. In what respect was attacking that site relevant to the law enforcement aims?
I'll tell you, country ass whippings. It was base as fuck. We should bomb it again for a good measure.
Okay, beautiful. $5 from Alishness. I'm not on the panel, so panel rules don't apply to me. F word you and your terrible idiot takes, you dumb fuck, Stream Rift and Gibbs. Lactoid is okay.
I know who that was for.
By the way, Gibbs just said that, like, who cares about the fucking whatever their site? These are coming from people who cry whenever individuals like kneel at the fucking national anthem. So just to give you a sense of how fucking tied to their own, cultural artifacts, their own treasures, you guys cry. Oh my god, I can't.
A lot of conservatives do.
I don't think I can't believe it. And you're like, I fucking destroy everything.
Listen, I don't give a shit if they cry. They want to piss on it. They want to burn it.
Oh my god, they tore down the Confederate statues.
If they get fired, that's on them.
Statues. Guys, they tore down the statues legally through democratic processes. How could they do that? You're like, fucking kill. Give me a break.
I mean, let them tear them down, I guess. I don't give a shit about it.
So,
in fact, let it. I hope they do tear them down so that we don't upkeep them. That's less taxpayer dollars. You know what? Let's tear down all the statues.
Pisco, what was your reaction to them tearing down the Confederate statues?
Yeah, I thought that was based
through
legal measures.
When it was
legally done.
Let's say the ones that sure, but when it was illegally done, did you lament it at all? Or?
I condemn the illegal taking down of the statues.
No, I'm not. I
really like that.
It's morally wrong. It's morally wrong. It's morally wrong.
I know that you condemn it because it's illegal, and therefore, because it's illegal, it's potentially morally wrong. But do you lament, I guess, the concept of people going and tearing down this statue?
I lament the concept of people going down and illegally tearing down the statue. Is that what statue? Is that what you're asking?
Because it's illegal.
Destroying history is okay if it's illegal.
I am in favor of.
Because it's the legality portion of it, right?
Correct.
That's the specific issue that you've issued. Okay.
Yes.
So it's not actual like but you can fair enough. So
Yeah,
if
so
it's
I'm
legal,
totally
then you think it's
consistent.
base, right?
Well, unless it's a statute
Sure.
that I like, right? If I don't like the statute,
You're
and there's-
talking about
Yeah.
government.
so for example,
I would be based. If it's statute, like I like that.
So
idea.
like if there's
I'm in.
what do you want to say? Fucking Black Lives Matter, everyone is gay statute. Then if that were the fucking statute, maybe I'd have a problem even if it was
Sure.
legal. I'm just saying that I'm against the people. I don't like
All right,
Confederates.
I can buy
Confederates
that.
are fucking traitors.
Yeah.
It just
What about when they wanted to tear down? Hold on. What about when they wanted to tear down Zachary Taylor's statue? He wasn't a traitor.
Zachary
They
Taylor,
wanted to
the
tear his statue
president.
down. Do you have a? Yeah, they wanted to. So there was a big fight a few years ago.
I don't know if
They
about
wanted
Zachary
to tear
Taylor.
down Zachary
We shouldn't
Taylor's
go through
statue.
every. We shouldn't go through
Do
every
you want to tear
statute.
down his? He wasn't a traitor. Are you okay with tearing his statue down?
I would keep Jefferson. I would keep Taylor probably.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. You know what?
$100 to say-
Pisco's consistent. I'll back him.
It,
with that.
You're not
it just
gonna let me
it, well,
read
it
my
just seemed to me.
$100
It just
back.
seemed to
You're
me.
not gonna Hold
Okay,
on.
real
Can I
quick.
get the $100? $100.
$100. Yeah, you get
Oh,
$100. Yeah.
$100 from Zonia. Okay, thank you for the $100 to say kick Stream Rift. All he's doing with his time is sharing memes on screen. He's not contributing at all. We're not doing the kick thing today, but thank you for the $100. I do appreciate that.
But the reason that part is
I
tell
it
you what-
was a good question because
I am out of here in like 2 minutes anyway, so we got that.
Well, then in
covered.
that case, you're done in 2 minutes, Stream Rift. Thank you for the $100. Okay. There
Yeah,
we go.
it seemed to me that you were to some extent, mocking the idea of people having like a deep personal connection with symbolism when it comes to like
that's
U.S.
not,
statues,
no,
etc.
No.
And you said they were on their knees and crying. That's specifically what you're talking about.
But
Were you
what I
not
was
saying that?
responding to was when he said, "Good, destroy their heritage sites," even though that wasn't their decision as a people to do. Yes, you could. They haven't done that yet. And it's their decision to make, not America's decision to make. And so he's like saying, yeah, because we hate fucking Chavez. And guess what? I fucking hate Chavez. You think I like Chavismo?
That's not why I'm saying that. No, I'm
that's the
saying that
feeling.
because
It's
it's a
like, I don't
moral.
care about
It's not a
these
moral
people.
strategy. It's not a moral strategy or an argument. It's called breaking their spirit, right? Like if the military, all these people are Maduro backers. Chavez is a socialist dictator. You take out their site, it's going to hurt their morale. It's smart. It's called good tactics. That's what I'm saying. I'm not arguing about morality. I'm talking about winning the war. I'm talking about whoopings. Are you arguing that if we take out
Just real
sites
quick, no,
that are
Gibbs,
important
do you
to these
think
people?
that striking the
It was a
tomb
military
did
exigency.
anything whatsoever?
But pissed them off?
Yeah,
or the-
absolutely. Yeah, it pisses them off, and when angry people get mad, guess what they do? They act stupidly, and they make rash decisions.
resist.
and that helps our U.S. military.
It might imperil the lives of people. I don't understand what the military necessity is in
Bro,
fire.
no, listen, hold on. Are you arguing that more? Hold on. You're telling me a tactic that's worked for thousands of years, which is hurting the morale by taking out sites, that's been proven to work for thousands of years, isn't a thing? Like you're arguing this is not a historical precedent established by thousands of years of warfare.
Hold on. That works when you've conquered a nation and are erasing their history. It
Right.
can work.
Yeah, well,
But
this is
can
the
you
start.
give me
Are you arguing that we're not
Can you give me an
conquering them?
instance, just real quick, Gibbs? Can you give me an instance where in an active conflict, during an active
Yeah.
conflict, that destroying some kind of culturally significant site
Is militarily,
broke?
Yeah, I could absolutely give you-
country's
I'll give
will
you
to
three.
fight?
I'll give you three of them. You ready for them?
Yep.
And you're going to laugh at two, and then the third one's going to be more serious. We got ISIS did this all during their time. They broke a bunch of the
But
wills
that
of
was
the
a
states.
that's a
In fact,
religious
how they
that's
touch
an
it.
ideological-
Hold on.
That's an ideological religious goal.
You asked me a question. I'm answering the question. Now,
That
you
didn't
asked
break
three
the
times.
spirit.
They broke.
Let him go. Let him go. Let him go through.
Let
Come
him
on.
go. They arguably it did. They blew up a bunch of archaeological sites. They were able to spread faster because they broke the will of the people. Mosul got taken down. If you're arguing that a weaker force was able to conquer them and it had nothing to do with morality, morale, then you're just dumb. Let's go with another one. Let's look at Afghanistan. Afghanistan, they blew up a lot of fucking cultural sites during the attacks when they came back. Not just before and not when they were in power. Why? Because it broke the morale of the people there. And I'm going to give you a third one. You brought up the Civil War. You might have heard of General Sherman in his March to the Sea. He burned everything. Why? Because the argument was we're going to break their backs. And when they finally got to the sea after burning Georgia, guess what the Confederacy did? They surrendered. Why? Because their morale was broken. They couldn't go into guerrilla warfare because there was nothing to go back to. They had no culture left. There was no
their
plantations.
culture.
They got burned. So you're arguing that this didn't happen. That's
Do
just
you
three
think
in recent history. Do you want to go back thousands of years?
Do you wanna-
economically important?
Hold on, listen. You're like, listen. I know you're
Let's scrutinize them. Let's scrutinize them.
But
Wait,
like, listen, we can
hey,
keep going down
let's-
further and further.
No, why don't we
for
just
a lot of these?
You put enough cases before us. Why don't we just scrutinize the ones that you provided? Is that
Sure,
okay? Or should we just
example? Alamo Goliad.
Oh, wait. I would
Go
rather
ahead,
start
go
with
ahead, let's do
ISIS. So in the ISIS case,
Sure.
you agreed that
Let's
ISIS.
start with ISIS.
Okay, in your view, ISIS destroying of these cultural sites improved their military capability.
Absolutely, 100%. And if you don't, you're just wrong.
And the proof of that is what?
Well, the proof of that would be whenever they blew up places like Nineveh, they immediately, right after they did that, took over large swaths of territory because guess what the forces did there? They crumbled. Why they crumbled? Because they didn't want to face them. Arguably because A, their military prowess, and B, because their morale was broken.
Which one do you think
ISIS
was
over
it?
so much land that they destroyed monuments.
Yeah.
It's both.
So here's what I think the problem is.
Are you saying it's not both?
I'm saying that you need to make a case that it's any of the former, which is to say the destruction of the cultural heritage sites. Because another inference, I think a plausible one, is the only reason they were able to destroy those sites, which they were doing for ideological and like religious purposes, was because of their military might. And you're ascribing the correlation to be causative, that it's because they destroyed those sites that they were able to further conquer. But you haven't talked to anybody. Do you have any cases of people saying, yes, it broke our morale?
Hold on.
It's also kind of a bad example because it rallied the West
No.
to like get more involved.
Yes, people got pissed and went and attacked them.
Hold on.
Like
It's a horrible example.
No, you're famously wrong. Whenever we invade countries.
Please, Gibbs, please, just real quick. Famously, remember when Al-Qaeda struck the cultural icon of the Twin Towers, we ceded immediately and just gave up all our will to fight.
No, we didn't. No, hold on, Wick. Sure, it rallies, but guess what? There's rally cries, and it works if you sometimes you get them small and you don't have enough force to go behind them and keep going, right? However, we can look. Hold on. We can look at World War II, though. We can look at all sorts of examples. There are many examples where we actually purposely go and conquer a certain area because of the cultural significance. We can look throughout history. Alexander the Great does this. We have all sorts of other examples. Hannibal does this.
I have a question for you.
Wait. Hold on. Let me finish. Hold on. You've been talking for hours. Just give me like 2 seconds here. I'm almost done. We can sit here. We can look throughout history where a purpose stated goal of the government invading is to take over cultural sites to demoralize the population because it is established that they will become demoralized. And even if you can hold out long enough, the losing those cultural sites is significant to the population. Now, in Al-Qaeda's case, they had no follow-up plan. Now, we have a follow-up plan. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure we have one.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that you're just repeating the claim.
I would like to talk about what that is, but we haven't talked about it at all.
Okay, let Pisco go. I gotta, Lactoid, you're in charge. I gotta use the restroom real quick.
Okay, so you're repeating you do a lot of repeating the claim. Where you say things like, "Well, it's been established that it's that way, and it's happened before that sites have been destroyed." I think a lot of the examples you point to World War II, they weren't being targeted necessarily for their cultural value. And when it did happen, where it did happen, there are cases that the whole attempt with respect to the Battle of the Blitz or whatever the fuck, the Battle of London, when they started, or the Blitz, sorry, I should say, where they were just like bombing a bunch of like civilian areas in UK. That didn't cause them to like just give up or anything. And there's a very good example, I think, from World War II that is counter to your point, which is namely the decision by Truman and the U.S. government not to drop.
Truman. He's looked so fondly in history.
Not to drop a nuclear bomb on Kyoto in Japan. And do you know why they didn't bomb Kyoto?
Well, yeah. Why did they do that? Let's talk about that. Why didn't they?
Well, because of its cultural significance. Apparently, one of the generals really liked his trip to Kyoto, and there was a desire by the government to preserve those heritage sites. But if it were material to the military purpose to destroy the will of the Japanese, which was said to be indomitable, if that was the purpose, if we're meant to believe that rationale for the atom bomb, why wouldn't they have dropped it on Kyoto?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's kind of the same question. Why did we just firebomb Tokyo? Oh, we did firebomb Tokyo. Here's the thing. Like there's a cultural impact when it comes to Japan, and we knew that the emperor was probably going to surrender. In fact, it was to the point that they had people throwing a coup. Here's the cultural aspect of that. Guess what? We didn't need to do that to Kyoto because we realized if we had let them have just that portion of culture, because, hey, it's all about perspective. If you give them a little bit, once we remove your emperor who's your god, these people are going to maybe fall in line.
Hey, they didn't remove the emperor.
They did. They did remove him. I don't know.
hold on. What happened with the Constitution in the coup right there that happened there at the end? You know? Or
Yeah,
you just
so,
making shit
so
up
the
right
coup was
now? 'Cause it seems like you
the
don't.
coup was unsuccessful. Agreed? Yes or no?
Oh, it was unsuccessful.
Was the coup
it was, right?
success?
And
So
then
was
what
the
happened?
sorry. Was the coup successful or unsuccessful?
No, but what happened? What happened right after
just
that?
to answer
though?
the fucking question, bitch. Was the coup successful or
Well,
unsuccessful?
I will answer it. I will answer because you're being obtuse here. And the reason I asked about it, knowing it was unsuccessful, was because those people got put in charge after the emperor surrendered. So yeah, it ended up being successful in the long run. And now you just look like a dumbass. You can sit here and keep trying to be a dick about shit, but like you clearly don't know history.
The main coup people there died.
Not all of them.
Okay,
And they got put in charge.
Okay, the ones. Okay, got it. Hey,
Are you disputing that fact?
I don't have enough information.
That's a fact. Like that's not even a disputed fact.
I think we can move off. Like,
no, we can move on because we caught him in a fucking bullshit.
I don't
and now
know.
you got to save him.
I don't know.
We caught him in his fucking tail, and now he doesn't have the answer.
To be honest,
so he tried to make a dunk, and now he looks like a dumbass.
The dunk is the dunk is on your proposition.
Wait. So you were wrong, Pisco. So you were wrong. I want to hear you say it.
I never made the claim. I never made the claim that the ones who were left from the coup didn't go and
no, you said they died. You said they were all
I said the main coup people died. That's true.
Just like the people that tried to throw coups on Hitler, some of them got put in charge. Okay. Not all of them died either.
This is a tangent that we're going on just to bring it back to kind of recenter us. Your claim, Gibbs, was that the strike on the tomb of Chavez was
a good military strike
to break their will.
Yeah,
and I don't find that argument serious.
Okay, well, I don't find I don't find
it's a weaker argument.
You think it's unserious, mattering at all because the military always puts cultural sites on the thing that they think will break the morale.
Hold on, the U.S. military actively.
Are you arguing that taking out the grave of a former socialist leader, of a former socialist leader? Well, sometimes they do, not always. There's multiple times in Iraq where they called in airstrikes on mosques. So when you're sitting here telling me this,
we're being occupied by enemy forces.
Hey, listen, that's just a happy coincidence. All I'm saying is when you sit here and you blow up a site like Chavez, who is the previous socialist dictator, and the other socialists are sitting here
let me ask you this: Does blowing up the tomb of Chavez, do you think that it will help us to run the country better? That we will have more ability to successfully run Venezuela.
100%.
As Trump has said that we are.
I will defer to the military expertise of Gibbs. I understand he's an admiral, but I will just say though, it does put to bed the notion this is
stolen honor, stolen valor,
this is pursuant to some law enforcement purpose because what you're hearing him say, right, is break their will, is make it easier to govern there, and so those are the real rationales is for America to exert control over the internal affairs of Venezuela, not to enforce American law abroad. But we can get into the morality if you want. I mean, I think that's what you ultimately want to get into is like, why is this good? And I guess I want to understand, Lactoid, we're probably aligned on this. I don't imagine that you would agree with this action.
I'm really torn. So, if it involves a couple things that are about like potentially the future of how this happens. If firstly, if this is reviewed and determined to be legal, or I guess not be illegal, that's like a critical element of this.
Sure.
The other element is if we do the kind of hardcore shit that Gibbs is advocating for, like let's just fucking take it and just start taking the oil. No, that would be bad, right? But if what we do is like set up some kind of like actual democratic process in Venezuela and allow the people there to have self-representation for the first time in a long time, and they vote in kind of like I'm guessing they're probably based on the polling, they're going to vote in a more moderate kind of Western aligned government, and then that government is just then goes on to govern, and there's like minimal bloodshed, kind of a as seamless of a transition of power as you can have given the circumstances. Then yeah, I mean I think you could argue it's like
if it ends
right.
well.
I mean,
if it ends well, you say it was good.
Like, if it ends well,
Yeah, but the thing is,
like,
right, so we can never
everything's been so hyper competent.
What I'm trying to say is, we can never rely on your prescription ex ante. That is to say, before in the fog of war, you're not going to make a prescription because you're going to see which way the wind blows.
Right.
I mean, these are the same arguments that were being said about Vietnam at the time, that were said about Iraq at the time. It's going to be seamless. And if, people are not going to want to institute the kind of regime, this Ba'athist regime. People are going to love the capitalism that we bring to them in these various different places. And so, I mean, you can take a kind of more agnostic, torn view until the dust settles, but isn't that like chicken shit?
I don't think so. I think because to me, I think I'm somewhat of a consequentialist. I do think that the consequences do matter when we're talking about actions, and I do give people points for being right. The administration saying that they had accurate intelligence and they had the capacity to conduct this in a way that's going to minimize casualties. And thus far, my understanding is they, in the course of a couple hours, took this guy from his own fucking country with no U.S. casualties. I don't know what the Venezuelan casualties are at this point. That's also going to be relevant here. But let's assume it's like 2 or 3 or something, some kind of like ridiculously small number.
What
I mean, you have to give them some credit for being.
For
There's been
what?
some reporting on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so apparently there was 12 Venezuelan. I almost said Vietnamese.
That's nothing.
Venezuelan military casualties and 90 injured. So
That's like nothing.
I mean,
because these aren't real
that's
people.
very low.
Because these aren't real people to you.
No, it's not that
What's
they're
a
not real
life?
people.
What's a
Hold
life?
on. It's called. Hold on. It's first of all, what is
Bro,
life? Who knows?
fuck.
Two gives a shit. But two.
Don't
It's
go off on this. It's gonna look really bad.
No. I am going to go off of this. Hold on. Like I'm the most extreme here on this about this, right? But when I literally said before you even said like less than 100 is nothing. It's 12 people dead, 90 injured, bro. Like that's nothing. That is literally us aiming and being like a scalpel, and it's never good enough. It could be one person. They'd be like, "Oh God, Trump could cure cancer at this point." They'd be like, "Oh, but what about the cancer jobs? Like, there's nothing this guy can do," and like they'll be satisfied.
Listen, do I think it was effective at its objective? That is at retrieving Maduro. Yeah, I mean it was effective at that. But effectiveness, presupposes an object, a goal, right? It's effectiveness with respect to a particular goal. And so I don't view effectiveness in the abstract.
And they achieved that. It was capture Maduro.
Yeah. So if all you mean is they did what they sought out to do in a way that was like impressive, then yeah, it was effective.
Well, that's what a goal is: doing what you sought out to do. Right?
I know.
Is that what a goal is?
I know
doing what you set out to do.
I know what a goal is.
The question is, should we have done that? Should we have sought that goal out?
It's begging the question.
Can I frame this?
Yes.
Let me frame this. Let me frame this as a question then. Pisco, let's assume that the courts review it. They find it to be legal due to XYZ circumstances.
I don't think courts will review it.
I
don't think it'll be reviewed by the courts.
Okay, it's a hypothetical. Just assume that they do, and assume that it's
Sure.
they give it the A+, they
Sure.
give it the thumbs up, and then we got 12 casualties. I agree, that's sad, right? People dying is horrific, but if it's 12 casualties compared to, I mean, let's say the country does transition to be like an actual effective democracy.
Yeah.
I think the point here is, we can admit those are human beings, but I mean, long-term stable government and rights-giving government is worth a certain level of deaths.
Right. So So first of all, I definitely agree that there are things worth dying for, and obviously, I don't take the view that every life is totally infinitely valuable. I don't agree with that. But it sometimes when you say things like 12 life, that's nothing. It just seems a little bit I don't know. And people say this kind of shit
8
about
billion people. It is nothing.
Well, in regards to a military operation, that's what he said. When he said by nothing, what he's saying is like, they're human beings, but 12 people in what it could be.
Biden probably lost like 2 points on the loss of like 13 American service people in the withdrawal of Afghanistan.
Yeah, because they're Americans.
I understand that, but when we take a look at that operation, if given all the assets that left Afghanistan, given all the massive maneuvering that took, the fact that you would hear Democrats say the fact that we only had 12 deaths suggests that by and large, even though there were some mistakes, it wasn't a catastrophe. And what you got from the other side was like, how can you say that? Each one of these, like, just to be clear about
why did they say that?
No,
hold on.
Listen,
Why did they say that?
I absolutely put a higher value of life. I'm not saying that I treat all life equally. That's not what I'm claiming. It's just the sheer.
I'm not saying anything. Why? Let's just not engage that example you gave.
No.
Why did they say that on the right? Why did we say that? Was it because of the lies?
Because you guys love. Why did we say that? You asked the question. I'm going to answer it. Yes. You asked why did you guys linger? Yeah. You asked why did conservatives linger there? It's because you guys love politicizing the death of service people and children. That's why you lingered there.
Okay, well, that's good. That's one take. This is the correct take because as someone that bitched about it, I'll tell you what we said. Pisco just wants the straw man, just like he tried to straw man me with the statue thing when I'm the biggest like anti-fucking government spending guy I know after Lactoid maybe. But here's the thing: when I'm sitting here going, hey. I'm looking at the Afghanistan withdrawal, and I see, 13 servicemen die in a chaotic withdrawal where the Taliban is now actually now that Iran's weaker, the perennial power in the region after China. I think that's a problem. And I see this because not only was it chaotic, troops were dying, civilians were dying, and it was just wholesale where the Afghani government couldn't even defend themselves. And that's why I say it was a complete failure, as opposed to, it was just 13 dying. We're not politicizing, the children and the troops dying. We're politicizing the fact that we enabled the Taliban to now be the strongest power in the region after China. So, maybe focus on the facts instead of trying to straw man.
Because it was Trump's deal.
That is why you're just lying.
It was Trump's deal. So they didn't have a problem.
Listen, you can try to straw man every time
from Afghanistan.
You can't listen. I'm actually a Republican. You can't tell me what I said. Just like when you told me I was upset about the Confederates, I don't give two fucks. Tear them all down. You know what? I like the Texan heroes, and I was bitching about this. You know what? Let's tear every statue down except for maybe the Alamo and the Goliath. I don't give a shit. I'm right tired of paying for them. You know, so when you're gonna straw man shit, at least I'll be able to straw man.
Wait. So do you oppose the withdrawal of Afghanistan?
Hold on. I got some updated information on the casualty numbers.
Yeah. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe not.
Apparently,
I don't know.
Venezuelan officials are saying there's at least 40 dead.
That's still nothing.
Yeah, that's still nothing. If it were 100,
not
you'd say
there's
that
more
too.
injured or not,
more.
Not clear.
Yeah, it's got to be it would be like thousands.
It would be like thousands. So hear this, right? For it to be an unacceptable casualty rate, it would have to be thousands of dead Venezuelans.
Yeah, well, considering we're invading and we're taking out their leader,
I would say
that's
invading?
a reasonable response.
So you agree we're invading?
Did we just capture their leader? We just said we're going to decide who the regime is. That means we have control, right?
No, I agree with that. But the problem is the invasion.
Okay, so that's invading.
The thing is, the invasion ain't finished. The invasion hasn't concluded. So if the goal of this is to invade,
opening day.
Yeah. So just be clear. Hang on a second. Just to be clear, if the goal is invasion, then we actually don't know if it's efficient yet, right?
Well, that's not necessarily true. You can say the invasion began and ended already.
Well,
that's not his view.
We can't say that. No, we can't say that.
Oh, okay.
Just real quick.
No, we can't say that.
Trump has said. Hold on. Just Trump has said that he's willing to go back in if the people who are currently in charge don't do what he says. So it's possible.
I disagree with what Lactoid just said.
But it's not necessarily true. It's over. And just to be clear, I think this is a point a lot of people are missing. The Maduro regime, is still in power.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. I actually agree with Pisco here. It's still the same.
And Trump has said, and Trump has expressed that as long as they give him what he wants, he's willing to work with them. So this idea that we're going to have this broadening, burgeoning peace, right, where democracy reigns supreme in Venezuela might happen, but it's far from A, the goal of this administration, and B, right, going to necessarily happen based on what's happened so far, right?
Well, I agree with that. I actually agree with you and Pisco here when we say the invasion is not done. I agree. It's not done. If we go back in Lactoid, no offense, I'm going to call that the same invasion. Let's not do semantics. If we're talking about, it takes a week later and they invade.
I'm not going to fight you on semantics. If you want to call it the same invasion or the second invasion, I don't care.
Sure. And that's fine. But my argument is, right, when I'm sitting here going, I'm not one of these guys, and there's a lot of Republicans that are in my camp. We're sitting here, the Republicans they're not sitting here going, hey, we said it was for the oil, we said it for all these things. We're not pretending we're sitting here trying to make this guy's everything good for him. We're going in there, we're getting our shit done. We got our problems. We need to take care of something. We have been effective. We've maintained loss of life, not that big. If we go in there and they don't play ball, we're probably going to try to keep it surgical and and keep it from expanding. We're not going to do the Israeli thing. We're not going to do the Russian thing. If we want to talk about how we're talking about crazy shit with a kill a bunch of people. And the argument that you're going, oh, 40 people dead in the opening act of the military invasion. What's the opening day body count for Iraq? Way higher. What's the opening day body count for Afghanistan? Way higher.
Well,
not only in those two scenarios.
What we're saying is what we're concerned about is what it will take to displace the regime.
I'm 10 seconds done. I'm done, Pisco. I'm done. I'm almost one here. My argument is in those both scenarios, right? We didn't capture Saddam for months after, right? We didn't capture Osama for 8-10 years after that. And then we didn't even I don't even know if we ever captured the leader of the Taliban. I think he got killed. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that one. But it wasn't the day of. We literally invaded, and 48 hours later, we took out their leader, and now we're negotiating with the remnants. And a lot of time, the remnants were afraid of the top part just because it's a goddamn cartel or terrorist organization or evil, like an evil dictatorship. And guess what? Those remnants usually are more amenable to a fucking deal where democracy occurs. Do you disagree with that?
I mean, I don't know if all the situations you talked about make democracy amenable. I can't characterize what you just said in that summary way, so I'm going to say no. However, I want to respond to a lot.
How about the effectiveness, though?
Of what? There was so much you were saying there.
So we got the yeah. I mean, I know it's hard to follow multiple points.
No, it was like 3 minutes of a bunch of stuff. I don't know what you're referring me to.
No, Pisco, no offense to you, Pisco. You just bitched. Hold on, Pisco. You just bitched at a guy for not listening after you monologued for 20 minutes.
I don't know what your question is referencing. I don't know what your question is referencing. What are you asking?
I don't want to say your bad faith. I'm about to say it.
I'm trying to answer your question. Are you saying, do I agree with everything
you just said?
What?
I'm about to go off. Is what I'm about to do.
No,
I'm just saying, listen. I'm trying to be real reasonable.
So, are you asking me? Do I agree with everything you said? Again, what's your question? I'm trying to respond to what you said.
All right, so I guess it's twofold. I'll do it twofold. One, those invasions were not very effective because we didn't get the leaders. We got the leader in 24 hours. Two, we went in there and we beat their ass, right? And it was effective, right? So, okay. So my question is, are you disagreeing on the first question? We're more effective this time than we were in Afghanistan and Iraq because we got the leadership. And two, are you arguing that the leadership, after it's taken out, the rest of the military or the regimes are generally not more amenable historically to some sort of deal that benefits the conquering power or the people there? Is that not generally what happens?
It seems like there's 4 questions there, but I'm going to try to respond to them. So
it's 2 questions.
Well, it seems like there's 2 different cases, right? Case 1 is the amount of time it took to get leaders of respectively the Iraqi regime, which we eventually did get, and the kind of uncertainty regarding the leader of the Taliban regime. And you're asking me, do I agree that it took longer if we ever got the leaders of those respective targets? Is that your question? Or that's the setup, right?
Well, it's not the longer part that I want you to focus on. It's the effectiveness. If you take out the leadership,
it depends. It depends what you mean by effective. If you mean effectiveness with respect to,
go into that. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you mean by effective with respect to removing the leader, then that's just trivial. Because if the job is to remove the leader, then obviously doing that faster and with less money and less casualties is by definition more effective. If the goal is to excavate the leader, but that's just trivially obvious. That doesn't get you where you need to go.
I'm glad we could build that bridge.
Well, but back when I said this was a highly efficient, highly competent right, but the fact this being a highly competent operation does go to the morality of it. If you go in somewhere and you bungle shit up and because if you go in somewhere and you bungle shit up and you kill a whole bunch more people than are necessary.
I will gather it's relevant that this act would be more immoral if there were orders of magnitude more damage and casualties. No doubt about that. Yeah, I agree that it's relevant.
Hold on. I don't even think did I get through my question when I was going to. Maybe I didn't. Pisco, assuming that the courts say it's okay, assuming that it does lead to democracy, you said did you say that it would be an overall moral action what the Trump administration did?
So in retrospect, it would be if it led to the results that we wanted, and if it were legal under those frameworks. And I include some international law ideals as well in my frameworks. But let's say for whatever reason that concern is obviated, right? There I would say in retrospect it would have been a good action. But that is not where we are right now. That's at a time where we have perfect certainty and we can go back in time and replay the action. Of course, I think good is what you ought do. And in that context, what you ought do is press the button, given the The results both a win on legality and a win on policy, no doubt about that. But the problem is assess the action right now, right? Because if you assess backwards in time, given our knowledge and what we know now, that's when we assess the morality now.
Well, sort of, but piece like when you're assessing an action, like there's certain claims being made by the administration that I think that are more credible. Like when you look at the immediate after effects, and they seem to describe exactly what the administration is saying, right? So the administration is saying, we had all the necessary intel to make sure we didn't bungle this. We had all the necessary assets in place. Like we could have done this super effectively. Now, if I'm deciding whether or not to pull the trigger at that point, I need to know whether or not they're telling the truth, and I'm never going to know because I'm not fucking privy to their internal and military intelligence. But if the action is done and everything plays out exactly as they said that it would, yes, somewhat in retrospect, but to me, I do believe that they did have the necessary intel, that they did have the necessary assets in place. And so then the question is, okay, well, if I'm in that position, do I press the button to go or not? And for me, that's why I'm torn.
You would need to know you would have to have the knowledge, and we understand actions to be judged.
But if I was the president, I would.
No, if you were the president, you would have the knowledge that the president have, and you would need to make an assessment if you're judging the morality of the president's action of what he knew at the time. It wouldn't be good enough to just.
I want to
go for it.
Yeah, just real quick.
But it seems like he knew enough to make it effective.
Hold on, just real quick. I want to challenge this notion that the results of a thing necessarily go into the morality of the thing. So, for example, right, like if I decide to jump off whether we should do a thing, I should say, the results. Like the results-based thinking is what I'm challenging here. Like just because
that's not what he said, though. Lactoid didn't say that the result determines the morality. He says he was appealing to my sense of morality, where I'm.
You said he's a consequentialist, did you not?
Well, I suppose he did, but he's also a libertarian, though, right? Aren't you a libertarian type natural rights guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think
am I wrong about consequentialism being that
you're not wrong. I mean, we don't have to make this. Yeah, we don't have to make this fucking get into my whole fucking philosophical framework. I am both.
If you take an action and it goes and there is a good result that comes of that action, that does not necessarily mean that action is moral.
I think you would agree with that.
Not necessarily. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean it, right? So. And it's a long explanation as to why that's the case.
We can get past that. I think we all agree on that. I think we're just clarifying that. Sure. But I think he was.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't.
He's appealing to both. But hold on. He's appealing to both because he's appealing both to the rights framework from is the legality, for example, and he's appealing to the consequences. And he's saying, imagine that we get wins on both. Wouldn't in retrospect you say that it was the good thing to do? And I just mean okay, right. I guess the answer would be yes, but it's just obvious, and it's not helpful.
And so I take the thing that I take issue, and maybe this is just the way you phrased it. You said that you don't think that the consequences are at all relevant in some circumstances. I think the consequences are always relevant. Yeah. Maybe they're not always relevant enough to change whether. When you say the morality specifically, to make it a good or bad action, or for example, all in the calculation.
If I kill a kid and get 10 children are suddenly free of any kind of sickness, and I can cure 10 kids by brutally torturing and murdering one kid.
Sure.
I still don't think brutally torturing and murdering that one kid is a moral.
But you would for $1 million, though, right? But you would for $1 million, Wick. But Wick, you would for $1 million.
I mean, there's a threshold.
Yes, right. I think that's all that Lactoid is appealing to.
That's the whole point. What's the threshold?
So the consequences do go into the calculation. Right. Just for you, you're weighting the action at a certain level,
a little different,
and then the consequences are weighted a little bit less. Sure, fair enough.
I think everything Lactoid said is consistent with those frameworks. I don't think that anything Lactoid said is inconsistent in saying we discount results or that we only count results. I think that it is able to be applied in these different frameworks.
Fair enough. But what I'm saying specifically here is why I'm looking at the immediate consequences that we have access to is, to me, I'm not necessarily judging. I mean, to some extent, I am judging those consequences as in my moral calculation by themselves.
Of course.
But what I'm trying to get at is that these results, to me, go towards a credibility question as to what the administration had actual had planning and information,
not necessarily
before they decided to pull the trigger.
So I grant you, right, that there are
they make it more likely than not.
I would say that it's relevant to the analysis of their credibility, but it reminds me a little bit of this guy the keys, Alan Lichtman guy. Wick, you surely remember Alan Lichtman.
Yeah.
There could be, because he's got them right all this other time, query about whether or not he got all those elections right. Some questions there for Lichtman specifically. we actually do really want to care about the epistemic process that occurred. So it could be the case that Trump Jar Jar Binks himself into like utopia in Latin America, including Venezuela. And we would say, obviously, like in retrospect, knowing what we know now, let him cook, right? In retrospect. But we have to assess the action at the time it was taken. And at the time it was taken, people saying, please don't Jar Jar Binks everything wouldn't be like morally wrong for giving that advice, given like our priors about, the world and state of affairs.
Yeah, you're not, it's not necessarily, you're right. It's not necessarily the case. Like somebody could be wildly incompetent and then just like accidentally get everything correct. That is possible. But in my opinion, for Alan Lichtman, the Alan Lichtman example, I've always been very skeptical of him because to me, the process just seemed more like, reading goat entrails than actual like
that's what I mean. That's precisely what I do.
Right. But is it more likely to me that the U.S. military, the most well-funded military in the whole world that has a tremendous amount of access to intelligence, probably had a decent amount of intelligence and proved that they had a decent amount of intelligence when they launched this specific invasion that only lasts?
Yeah. The operation itself. Hold on.
Yes,
the operation itself. Yes. What's
strategy.
Coming next? I doubt it.
So the strategy is what I doubt. Because the strategy is being.
That's why I said.
Let's just engage with that real.
That's why I said that, like, the ultimate morality here really depends on what comes next, and this is why I said, like, if we have the good ending, then potentially.
No, but like, you're being asked to assess it now, though.
Hold on,
it's a cop out.
Yeah, but I don't have the information that the Trump administration has.
So then say that I'm so then you're agnostic. You don't have a view on it.
No, I want to break away a little bit from Black Lactoid saying here. First, I'm glad.
It's a preliminary view. Does that work?
Well, what is the preliminary view?
I want to break away.
Are you preliminarily in favor of it?
I am. Yeah, hold on. I'm preliminarily in favor of it. So it's like right on the line because
the U.S. imperialist war for oil and democracy. I just want to hear you say that.
I'll say this. Hold on. I know you really want me to say that.
Yeah.
And maybe I will.
I'll say it. Yeah.
I know everyone knows you will, Gibbs. You just want to wipe them out. I get it.
I don't want to wipe them out.
For me, it's right on the line. If Trump wasn't saying we're gonna get the oil, we're gonna run it. Like if he wasn't saying that, I would be much more on the preliminarily kind of I think this is a good idea.
That's right.
The fact that those specific statements are really pushing it to be right in the fucking middle to maybe where I'm gonna just fucking take the bitch position of agnosticism.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm at least explaining my calculation here. Like it's right there on the line because I don't like the idea of U.S. just kind of brazen imperialism over countries that don't want us there. But at the same time, like if we go in there in accordance with the will of the people and establish some kind of like method of demonstrating that and establish some kind of protection process, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So what's your problem with the Iraq War? Can I ask? Do you have a problem with the Iraq War?
Well, yeah, I've got a couple problems with the Iraq War. The first problem with the Iraq War is that it was based on a shit ton of lies. We already talked about that. Like part of the justification for it was an overt lie. They weren't coming out and just saying, "Yeah, we know there's no WMDs. We just want the fucking oil." All right, that would be better than what they did. The second thing is obviously the administration had no fucking follow-up plan because we handed that whole country over to Iran at this point. If we had the good ending, yes, we did. Yes, we did.
No, I got it. You're wrong. All right, so like this is the problem. This is actually the whole problem I have with your stance, right? So one, I'm glad that y'all have admitted.
I'm careful.
Hold on, just real quick. Yeah, I understand. Listen, like I'm glad that we've admitted they were more effective this time. They got the leadership out. I think this matters. This was much more like Panama with Noriega than it was like Iraq and Afghanistan, right? Okay, and then the question now is a two-part question.
Job ain't finished. Wait, job ain't finished. Job ain't finished. So we don't know if it's more effective.
I know. I think. Hold on. Thank you. Hold on. Let me finish. So I've said recently many times that at first I had been in the camp y'all have been in. It sounds like where y'all are like Iraq war failure. Now I'm in a different camp. I've moved. I think now after the Iran strikes, we have pushed has been vindicated.
What's the story?
Iran is the weakest place it's ever been. Iraq has shifted back to us. Syria is no longer a threat. Hezbollah is no longer a threat. Hamas is no longer a threat. And the Houthis had more bombs dropped on them than any country since World War II. I think actually they beat World War II. So here's what I mean. I could be wrong once again, but it was
nothing to do with Iraq.
Well, hold on. I did. Thank you, Lactoid. You didn't listen. I know y'all didn't listen, but here, this is my point. I brought up Iraq.
I totally missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Iraq did move back to us after we fucking took out Iran, after we fucking blew up Salami, we turned him into Salami. I'm just saying, my point is, this was the point, was to take out the Ba'athists. The Ba'athists were what countries? Libya, Syria, and Iraq. Where are the Ba'athists now? Well, some of them turned into ISIS, and then the rest all died. So I would have to say, now, 20 years hindsight, Bush should be looked on more favorably because he took out the whole region.
Look,
and the problem y'all are about to say is all these people died. Well, I'm literally almost done. Like, the problem y'all are going to say is all these people died, and that is bad. However, I'm going to sit here and go, morally and justifiably, I look at things first through America's lens. What's best for America? That's a moral justification. And these countries that are perennial adversarial powers being weaker is a good thing for America. So yeah, I think that.
So if America would be better off, if America would be better off raping and pillaging an island nation, and going there for
yeah, I'm in. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah, so but without even appealing to like the
super chats then before I let you go, Lactoid.
Okay, fine. Go ahead.
Yes, $20 from Grassroots Hezron to say, yeah, the part where he said he's going to annex a sovereign nation to steal its national resources is separate from the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. One has not to do with the other. Thank you for the $20 and $20
Manifest
from Andrew Sam 97 to say one thing that the America First people is right about is that there are naturalized citizens that are still loyal to their country of origin, looking at Venezuelans, and they vote for those who will benefit their home country. Thank you for the $20. Okay, now you can go.
Venezuelans, I think, Venezuelans in America, I think, are pretty broadly opposed to Maduro, just because of the kind of Venezuelan who's going to leave Venezuela for America. Oh shit! Remind me of the point that we were just talking about before.
So Iraq War.
No. What we were just talking. I just want to remind the audience because there was a little bit of break. What we were just saying. What we were just saying was Gibbs was saying that it's justified to behave like a caveman and go rape and pillage an island nation if it benefits America.
That's absolutely right.
Okay, I oppose the raping and pillaging. Just to be clear, I don't agree with Gibbs on that.
50 cents less gas for every child we destroy. Okay, but go on.
And Gibbs, the other thing here is I don't think when you're looking at the inefficacy of the invasion of Iraq, you don't have to look at the death count necessarily, although I think you should. But you can just look at, again, how the geopolitical, winds changed because of that invasion. You're right. The Houthis are on the back foot. Hezbollah is Hamas, but most of that has to do
but I don't
with
care about the political
catastrophe.
Wins, I care about what's best for America.
No, I understand, but I'm talking about in like a purely American. I'm going to enter into your world. Does it benefit America? Yes, no, right? That's the only question. So Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, they're all getting fucked, but that's mostly because of Hamas's totally botched invasion of Israel and all the shit that kind of happened after that. It does not have to do with Iraq. It does not have to do with the fact that
it does.
Saddam Hussein was not an Iranian proxy. Saddam Hussein was not friendly with Iran. Yeah, sure. Right. And so now, do you think Iraq has more Iranian influence now or before the Iraq invasion?
Okay, well, let me explain why you're wrong. Right, you're absolutely correct about Saddam.
Answer the question.
Iran.
It's okay. I'll listen to the whole answer. Go ahead.
He's not. He's going to forget the question.
Right. So
he's already forgot the question. Listen, maybe you don't remember what he just asked.
Can I talk?
Yes.
Can I talk? Okay. Listen. First, maybe I should give you my dealer so that you can stay on track. I know I can handle multiple thoughts.
Just go. Just go.
So
we
first,
don't need this.
I know. I got it, Wick. I got it. Please, God. First, listen. I understand that Saddam was not pro-Iran. Okay, cool. He didn't like Iran. However, Saddam was also anti the people that we liked. And this is the other problem. Multipolarity, right? He wanted multipolarity. He was trying to form a 3-country state and make it one nation. The Ba'ath Party, they were in all these countries, Syria, Iraq, Libya. This is the whole thing. If y'all remember it was a big problem. We wanted to get rid of the Ba'ath, right? That was Pisco brought out the Ba'athists. We don't like the Ba'athists. They're bad. Now, I absolutely agree. So what I have to say is that, hold on, Rick, I'm almost done. My problem is, you're sitting here. I got it. Can I finish, please?
I just wanted to. What did Lactoid
I got it. I'm going to answer. Let me finish. I know sometimes y'all think I don't know what I'm talking about, but trust me. So we've got rid of the Ba'athists, right? They're gone. Now, he goes, did they get more in bed with Iran? Well, they did for a time. However, they were
they do now.
Hold on.
Can I finish? Thank
Yeah,
you.
good job, good job.
Listen,
Finish your
they
point.
did for a time, and then they got weaker. And then we whooped Iran's ass. We whooped Hezbollah's ass. Israel took people to town. Syria fell apart. So now the Baathists are completely gone, right? All across 3 countries. Then ISIS came up. Now Trump handled ISIS. They got rid of them. Now we have, Iran comes to power. All these other countries have gotten weaker. They're the big perennial power. It's them or Saudi Arabia, right? Well, guess what just happened? Now Iran is having civil unrest. We just bombed their nuclear facilities. They're the weakest they've been. Hezbollah's weak. Hamas is weak. All these things. And this all stems back to the original invasion of Iraq. And now Iraq's government is moving away from Iran and back to us because they know that Saudi Arabia and us are going to influence the region and Israel.
Isn't this an
Iran.
anti-Israel
So
talking point?
So is that the answer to your question? No, why? Israel's great.
The disconnect here that I'm having is when you're saying, and this all stems from the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah, because it started as the first domino.
Domino. Hold on, handing Iraq over to Iran was the first domino for destroying the Houthis.
Yeah, because it was the reason we knew that was going to happen. We knew their next strongest neighbor was going to be Iran. Saudi's too far from them.
So we knew that Iran was going to take over, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It was going to be an excuse to use. It was absolutely going to be an excuse.
I
to
promise
stay involved
you, at
in
the
region.
time, as someone who was actually an adult when we invaded Afghanistan, I promise that you at the time that was not in our planning. We had no plans for that.
Wait, and it really has not worked out that way.
Hold on. I want you to know something. I believe you when you say that. However, I think there are people that knew that Iran would gain stronger influence after you take out a
Did
dictator.
they wear funny little hats?
Hold on. I fucking don't know. I mean, are you asking
the Jews?
Like
that was not my point. Hold on.
That's why I've heard this. That's why I've heard this. That's why I've heard this. Nick Fuentes. I've heard this from Fuentes. Did you hear it from Fuentes?
Nick Fuentes.
I'm just asking.
No,
answer
it. But hold on. First of all, let me just jump in. here. I will answer. No, I've never watched any of Fuentes.
Okay.
Second of all, he's a dumbass Hispanic. Hold on. Secondly, because they're going to come for him, just like they're going to come for me. Third, I don't give a shit about the Jews. I know 3 Jews in my lifetime. Hold on. And they're all hot blondes with huge tits. Big fan. Love the Jews. And they're rich. Why would I not like these people? Hot blondes with big tits, a lot of money. Big fan. What the fuck are you talking about, the Jew? I don't know about none of this. What I am saying is that when you take out a dictator that's very powerful, maybe the 6th strongest country in the world, and he's anti-fucking Iran, well, who do you think's gonna gain power? Dictator Iran, bitch! It's fucking easy math. So y'all are sitting here telling me shit everybody knew, or so it's just come on, stop being dumb.
Good point.
And what's this Jew obsession? Why do you hate the Jews?
We don't hate the Jews.
We're just
making sure that this wasn't.
The idea that there's a conspiracy, right? That whole idea, that whole line of thinking is something as Pisco said.
Yes,
it comes.
This is the notion, Gibbs. The notion
is
that
it doesn't, bro. This is dumb.
Listen, you might have something different, but I've heard this narrative in recent months, which is something like this: that Israel
Bush was right.
Orchestrate. No, that's not what I was hearing. In fact, I wanted to bring
the
that
narrative I'm pushing. Bush was right.
Okay. Well, I want to get to that. I actually do want to get to that. But
go ahead.
The narrative, which is not too dissimilar to what you suggested, is that there was this plan as a way to hedge against Iran and to counter their growing influence and any kind of coalition. The decision was made to kind of go after Iraq and to go after Syria and to go after all of the encircling countries that could threaten Israel. And so that's where the narrative has been prominent. In response to you, Bush is based. I'm glad that you openly will say that, because what I am trying to convince MAGA people of is that this whole thing about no new wars, about Bush was wrong, we're a new type of conservative. When, Trump famously said those words to Jeb Bush of that was a doozy when he was talking about the invasion of Iraq, that all of that is bullshit propaganda advertisement meant for the rubes. It's meant for the dumb people. That the people in charge, maybe they got a little bit more self-serving, maybe they got a little bit more corrupt under Trump, but fundamentally, it's back to work for the neocons in the Republican administration. And I'm glad you're honest about it.
So I think honesty is the best policy.
Lactoid. I want to hear what Lactoid has.
I wish more people.
Yeah, I don't agree with anything, but
on the drain a little bit, so we're gonna probably cut this off real soon. But go ahead, Lactoid.
That's fine. I understand, Gibbs. You defend the imperialist position. I understand that you're excited when this happens. For me, somebody who doesn't like the idea of getting entangled in foreign wars, this was in the 2024 election a significant reason why I voted for Donald Trump.
Yikes.
And this is, like I said, I do have a predisposition against foreign interference. There can be circumstances that can say, oh shit, well, I guess it's justified if all the different things fall into place. But for me, and this is kind of what I was trying to get at, I mean, a little bit, I suppose. Really, it was mostly, I think, commenting on perceived hypocrisy, but I was really trying to get at with my tweets, which is on the Ukraine situation, the Trump administration, I think, has been pretty good compared to what I think Kamala would have done, compared to what Biden did do. And even with this operation, right, the other things that Donald Trump has done, especially with Ukraine, but also in other places around the world in terms of how he's tried to broker peace. I think he's put in a significant effort. I think now you can say this is because he's has this ego and he really was gunning for that Nobel Peace Prize and he, unfortunately only got the fucking FIFA one. Okay, fair enough. But for me, once again, like if even if it's purely self-interested, if his actions are leading to less conflict and leading to less American involvement in foreign wars and less hundreds of thousands.
You don't really care about the corruption and
billions
the
of
lies and
taxpayer dollars. Okay, that's a whole another line of argumentation that I'm sure we've had a million times.
So you tweeted, one of the things you tweeted was the hypocrisy of liberals.
Go ahead and read the whole tweet.
Vis-a-vis Ukraine. I guess I'll read the whole tweet.
Yeah, go ahead. Why not? Why not? If we're gonna do this, let's do this.
This is the tweet from Lactoid. Quote: Zelensky supporters decrying the Venezuela operation against a Putin ally as being, quote, illegal and, quote, interventionist are laughable. They support dumping U.S. money on illegal dictators. They don't care about law and order or American interventionism. They just hate Trump. And so I think that this is one of the dumbest points I've ever read on Twitter and X. And I'm trying to understand, what is the hypocrisy you're alleging?
The double standard.
What is the standard that you think is being applied in one case that isn't being applied in another?
I think that Zelensky supporters generally are, like in America we're talking about, are people who are generally in favor of, let's ignore the kind of legal aspect, like the illegality of the regime there. Let's ignore kind of the blatant breaches of international law, the breaches in their own Ukrainian constitution, not only in Zelensky remaining as an illegal president, which he currently is a illegal president, but also ignoring the brazen violations of the constitution in order to get that power structure in place in the first place.
You're just repeating the claim. You're repeating the claim.
All of that. Yeah, I am. Hold on. All of that. They don't care about that. And then they're also in favor, well, let's just give billions of dollars to this illegal regime. That's intervention. That's prolonging the war. That's spending U.S. money. That's causing casualties, all of that. Yeah, we should do that. And if you don't do that, you're horrible, et cetera, et cetera. But then, right, so the legality, they don't care about the legality. They don't care about the anti-interventionist kind of point. But then Trump does something, right? Trump launches an operation to take out Maduro, to arrest Maduro. And then all of a sudden, for these specific people, right, it is, this is bad. Interventionism is bad. This is illegal. We care so much about the law, international law, blah blah blah. Yeah, I think it's dishonest hand-wringing. I think there's a few Twitter users who have been pretty consistent, actually. I think Drew Pablo, who is a huge Ukraine supporter, also supports these strikes. I think that he's, I guess, somewhat consistent on that.
I've invited Drew Pablo on the show,
he's
and
too much of a bitch.
I told him he could come, and he's not.
Yeah, he's too much of a bitch.
He's not showing.
No, I'm just saying,
he will quote
based on his tweets, so I wouldn't.
No, he's not consistent at all. He just he has no ideological through line other than flag waving. But go ahead.
Yeah. You might have issues with him personally. Maybe you criticize him. That's fine. I have some issues
at least
as well.
business.
I guess what I'm pointing out is that. What I'm pointing out is that I don't think that he is necessarily being like as brazenly having like double standards, kind of hand wringing as a lot of people that I've been seeing.
Let's just walk through it. Let's just walk.
But you kind of hold on, wait. You're kind of being flippy floppy.
No, because he's agnostic. No, because he just doesn't know now. So he gets to not be flippy floppy because he can just withhold judgment, which is very convenient.
I'm not.
So-
Whoa, whoa,
Tony,
whoa,
can I ask
whoa,
you-
whoa,
I'm
wait,
not
wait,
saying
wait,
it's
I'm
not
flipping
true.
floppy.
I'm just saying it's inconvenient.
I'm not. Hold
Well,
on.
let me ask you-
Stop.
Well, let
me ask you a question.
Lactoid defend
Gibbs,
his ass
I'm
from the
not.
accusation.
I'm not flip floppy at all. Right. For example, one of the reasons why I think the 2014 Crimean operation by the Russians was very defensible is because we have a peninsula of almost or over 2 million people, or just under 2 million people, and we have 3 total casualties on the transfer of that peninsula over to the Russian Federation. I am applying a consistent standard of, hey, you know, we look at the results, we look at the underlying motivations of trying to rescue people there from a dictator.
So what's your case that libs are applying an inconsistent standard? That's what I don't understand. And I just want like a simple answer to that. What is the standard that libs claim to be
After
upholding
you answer, I got a question.
that they actually are not? What's that standard? Because I think you're going to say something like, oh, well, liberals claim to care about the law, but don't you know they don't care about this law as much as this violation? But there could be a framework that addresses and explains why we care more about one violation of a law than another.
But again, not a reasonable framework if you know the specific details as to the Ukraine conflict compared to the current Venezuelan conflict. We don't know all the details about the current Venezuelan operation. Hold on. You asked a question. We're here. We're going to talk about it. But you asked a question. So why couldn't some Zelensky supporter have like these wild standards in which it's interventionism is actually a really good thing when it comes to dumping hundreds of billions of dollars onto a illegal president that has committed war crimes via international law, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe they have some kind of framework that justifies that they don't have when it comes to removing a dictator who cheated in his elections in Venezuela. It's potentially possible, but I wouldn't consider this person to be a rational person. So maybe I should have added on my tweet.
Let's just talk
Wait,
about
hold on. Maybe I should have added on my sure. Maybe I should have added on my tweet are laughable or mentally deranged. Maybe I should have added that qualifier because there could be people who are mentally deranged.
I assumed rationality in your question. I mean, I'm assuming, well, not that you're asking it, not that the asking of the question indicates rationality. I think it indicates the opposite of that. But I'm assuming that in the way you set it up, that the supporters, and by the way, just so people are aware, I'm not saying that I'm not fucking whatever losing sleep over it, but you'll notice that Lactoid is trying to be purposeful with his use of terminology. Zelensky supporters, as opposed to Ukraine supporters. I think that there's a very clear intent to the kind of language he uses in these conversations, and I'm just signaling it. But there is.
I am being
rational,
very clear with my language.
There is a rational. I said purposeful in terms of your agenda, and which is that you don't recognize really the legitimacy of Ukraine in any respect. And anyway,
no.
Hold on. That's a lie.
That's a lie. Wait.
That's my opinion.
No, Gibbs. Before you.
I do want to get in.
Okay, before. Yeah, but I have to address this. Okay. You could. Yeah,
all right, go ahead.
Sure. You can have an opinion, right? That's fine. That's fair. But just to be clear, I have repeatedly on tape multiple times affirmed the right of Ukraine to exist as a country, as a state. I have said this many times. I continue to assert this. I have a problem with the Zelensky regime. I have a problem with the fact that they are currently ruled by a dictator. That's what I have a problem with. Now, you can choose to not believe me. You can say all that shit you said before, Lactoid, from the very beginning, all of that's bullshit. Great. All right, fair enough. But as long as you put in the caveat that you have no evidence to base this off of, fair enough.
Well, no. I think that it's my opinion based on your absurd straw men, and this is a perfect example of it. So there absolutely are rational frameworks that would justify emphasis and care about the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, and be significantly less concerned or not concerned at all with the violation of the Ukrainian constitution, that impeachment articles that you allege took place, and that I will even just grant for the sake of this conversation that did occur. I just want to grant there are rational frameworks that there are rational frameworks that liberals could have that would justify a different reaction to either of those two events. Isn't that right?
No, I don't think there's a rational framework. There is a framework. It's not a rational framework.
Let me provide one.
Explain why, but I think
Let me provide one.
I will.
Okay. So this.
Well, hold on. I said I was going to keep going on.
Okay.
But
there's a delay.
Wick, I guess
I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm not trying to interrupt you. There's a delay.
Sure.
Okay. Fair enough. But the fact that I don't know if you're trying to interrupt me or not, does that not say something about
hold
you?
on.
We've all got better faith.
Yeah, we can skip this bit. Pisco,
wait.
Your framework that you think.
And let me get in there, please. After he does,
I'm not hearing it. I'm hearing it late. Yeah, I will give the framework. So here's the framework. Someone and this is the framework
after Pisco.
I by and large accept. I'll give you two. The first is, well, yeah, they shouldn't have done that, and it was wrong to do this impeachment and not follow the rules. But in the grand scope of what occurred in Ukraine, it's a procedural technicality that doesn't really matter in scope of the broader legitimacy of the actual vote that took place for Zelensky after this violation of law. That's a person who would say something like, yeah, they shouldn't have done that. It was wrong to do. But I am going to spend more time on the much greater evil, which is the invasion that occurred. That's one framework. Another framework would be, I don't respect the Ukrainian, the legitimacy of the Ukrainian regime from a domestic perspective, from an insider perspective, internal to itself, not as a state in and of itself, but the regime, as you just put out. And therefore, I don't respect the rules that governed the Ukrainian constitution as held by, Yanukovych. So this is a view that, I go more with the former for me personally, but that's a view that just says like, yeah, who the fuck cares about the Ukrainian regime and enforcement of its own constitution from a domestic perspective. I care, that is just, I don't give a shit about that domestic law before there was a more legitimate regime, non-regime government. And I do care about the violation that Russia took place. So those are two frameworks. One which severely understates the badness, severely downplays from your perspective the badness of the one law violation, but does say that it was wrong to do in general. And another perspective which just discounts it entirely. And those are rational positions that one could hold.
Hold on. Before you answer that, Lactoid, just add my question in there too, because I think this matters. I think Pisco's actually like this question. Like, why the fuck does any of what you're saying matter, right? If you're going to say that, taking out Maduro is good for the U.S., right? Then why, are you going to, and we're just backing it. You're the only, just admit the only issue that you have with Zelensky is that you just don't think it's beneficial to the U.S. Because, I'm confused.
I don't have a problem with Zelensky.
If you're okay with us removing it, I'm not you, Pisco.
Oh.
Not you.
I bet.
Lactoid has a problem with Zelensky, right? And my issue is that what he's in, this is why I call him flippy floppy. He's okay with us removing Maduro, right? Because it's good for U.S. And my issue is, right, I think it's good for us to be in Ukraine, back in Ukraine. I know I'm a rare Republican on that one. But when it comes to Zelensky, if you think he's illegal or Putin's illegal because he's, manipulated the Constitution, why aren't you in favor of us removing Putin? Why are you not pro Zelensky? Who gives a shit if he got there illegally? It's good for the U.S. I don't understand why you sound flippy floppy because if this is a problem in Ukraine, then what we're doing in Venezuela would be a problem because we're doing it against their own laws, right? I think what's the match it for me?
Okay, I have written down, just because it's very technical, there's no way I was going to remember all of it. I've got the two frameworks that Pisco has said, and then I have your question written down, Gibbs. So I'm just going to go through and just respond. I guess I'll just address your second framework first. You said that you're not particularly partial to that one. I think that one has a pitfall in it when you say, well, from an internal perspective, you don't really respect that the Ukrainian constitution as held by Yanukovych, which I think immediately kind of runs afoul of other principles that, first of all, the rule of law, if we're talking about the constitution, so that would go to my tweet. If you don't respect how the constitution is set up, then you don't respect the rule of law, which is exactly what I'm talking about.
No, it's a good point. I just want to address this point specifically so we can clear down the view. That respect for the rule of law itself is a wait. I just want to say the respect for the rule of law itself that's a principle you just added is with respect to is context dependent as well. So you can't just say, well, there's a broader principle of respect for the law. Okay, go for it.
Mm-hmm. I'm about to get to that. In that, Yanukovych followed the Constitution. Yanukovych was democratically elected by the people of Ukraine in 2010. That was a free and fair election that was monitored by over 1,000 international organizations. That was a free and fair election. And Okay, I think it is responsive. I think that when you have a president, and maybe you can explain to me why it's not, but when you have a president who is elected democratically, great. When you have a president who's elected democratically into a country that was overseen by international organizations, and then you have his opposition ignore the Constitution, brazenly ignore the Constitution, and remove him without even attempting to go through the impeachment process, how does this not
that's all granted.
give the middle finger to rule of law?
Wait, no, yeah, it's all granted. In the second system, the person just doesn't care about the rule of law under Yanukovych. And that person who doesn't have a respect for the rule of law in that context, in the context of it being Yanukovych, but they do respect the other form of law, there's no contradiction there. Now, I take a softer version of that, which is just that I think it was wrong, but not nearly as wrong about than Russia's invasion, and not and let me finish, and not a sufficient reason for us not to support Ukraine. And so they're not all
sure. That's the first. That's the first one, but we're still on the second one.
Yeah.
You could say that, but to me, that's just brazen double. Like that's implying it. That's putting
What's
forward
the
double
contradiction?
Standard. Let me finish a fucking sentence. Yeah. To me, that's putting forward a brazen double standard that indicates that this, the rule of law, is not actually a principle in itself. It's only something that you care about.
You believe this? Wait a second. You believe this? You believe this?
Wait. Okay. It's only something that you care about, right? When Yanukovych is I guess in power, or when not in power, right? Then all of a sudden it activates
this is interesting. This is interesting.
I know. I know what you're going to say. What about like Hitler or some other dictator?
What about international law? You don't respect. You don't respect rule of law for all law. You don't respect that. Do you respect EU law? Do you respect Venezuelan law?
Yeah.
Do you respect this law?
Just yes. Yeah. Hold on. I said my loyalty to America from the very beginning of this conversation. I said international law is a factor in terms of leaders in other countries respecting their own laws. That is a factor. For me, the Constitution is like what I'm loyal to. Right. This is like the first and foremost thing that I care about. If something does run afoul of international law, if something does run afoul of other laws, like I care about that.
So you
I don't care about it nearly to the same extent.
Bodies of law. So you treat different bodies of law differently, correct? So that's
but not based on who's in power.
Wait, but why shouldn't it? Why shouldn't part of your decision making? I'll let you know, right? Not in the American context. I'll grant you. In the American context, I think that our institutions, thankfully, though they're being withered, though they're being fucking attacked right now, so far, I still have enough faith in them to believe in the project itself. But just take any case of like a country gone rogue, or like a country of Saudi Arabia, or like some other like crazy country that has racist laws. You don't respect bodies of law independent of the context in which they exist, and there's no contradiction in respecting one rule of law versus another based on, I don't know, who is enforcing the law, or B, who's interpreting the law, or C, who's making the body of law. That's all. There's no contradiction until there.
Can you just clarify? Hold on, before you go, can you just clarify something? I think we might actually agree on this. Like, can you say the last part again? You just said it doesn't matter the country, right? All this, you can't see. My point to Lactoid here. Just ignore this. I'm sorry, guys. Is the whole point reason I asked that question is I only care about U.S. first. If he's professing U.S. first, obviously fighting the evil empire is the best thing, and Russia's evil. They're our evil empire. Why does it matter what the rule of law is in that country? Because we're doing what we want to do, which is back Zelensky. It doesn't matter if he's illegally elected. So I don't understand what your conundrum is here, Lactoid. I think that's kind of what Pisco is saying too. I mean, am I wrong?
It feels like, so in response to you, Gibbs.
I guess
we're saying the same thing.
I didn't account. I guess, Gibbs, and you always remind me of this. I apologize for the brazen imperialist perspective of just let's send in the fucking Marines and just take it because fuck them.
That's right.
That is a perspective, I suppose. What I'm referring to is, to me, you have this claimed respect for constitutional processes, rule of law, etc., international law, etc., that Zelensky supporters will put forward, especially when they're appealing to these laws to condemn Russia's invasion, when they're condemning the shit that Russia does.
No, because there's so first of all, they're different sets of laws, and they carry with them different
not
kinds
necessarily.
of moral culpability. Yes, they are. Wait, no, the domestic law of Ukraine and its constitution is a different body of law than.
That's why I said international law as well. Okay. Ukraine has violated international law many times since 2014.
Yes.
So assuming that you give a shit at all about international law, that would be relevant.
Wait, no, but there would be nothing. There would be nothing inconsistent. There would be
not give a
nothing
fuck at all
inconsistent.
about
No.
international law?
What I'm saying is, there's nothing inconsistent with someone saying, yeah, and this would be my position. When Ukraine does war crimes and violates international law, I condemn that. But I still also condemn
Do you think
Russia's invasion.
Pisco,
Wait. Is there any contradiction in what I just said? No, right?
Hold on.
Well, hold on.
Stop, Gibbs. You're saying, is there any contradiction in the idea that I condemn violations of international law when Ukraine does it, and I also condemn when Russia does it?
Yeah.
There's not like a necessary contradiction there.
Okay.
But I think where the contradiction does come in is when you have I think one-sided of an approach being taken of hyper-fixating on the actions of one party as opposed to the other party, advocating for funding to one party over the other party.
Maybe because you think one is worse. Maybe because you think one is way worse. Maybe you think one violation of law is way worse.
Using your logic, I could simply I could say, well, I think the rule of law only matters when Trump is president, not when Biden is president, because Biden is so terrible.
You could.
I know you don't do this because you said that you have a more principled position when it comes to U.S. law.
American law.
What I'm saying is somebody using the same logic that you use on international law or the laws of foreign governments, if they just applied that to U.S. law, then you could absolutely have somebody very consistently, I suppose, say the law only matters when Trump is in office. The law doesn't matter. The law doesn't matter. Hold on, Gibbs. The law doesn't matter when Biden is in power, or the law is not relevant or good when Biden's in power because he's so evil, because he's opposed to my interests. So do you think this person really values rule of law?
So
but hold on, what's the fundamental difference between what Russia's doing in Ukraine and what we're doing in Venezuela?
Please.
Hold on. I've been waiting. I have a question. Hold on.
Yeah, you can wait a little longer. You can wait a little longer.
God damn it. This is
having
the point's
a
going to move, Wick.
conversation.
Hold on. That's fine, Wick. I'm asking the question. It's 2-second question. What's the fundamental difference between what we're doing in Venezuela and Ukraine? What's Russia's doing in Ukraine? 4 seconds.
It was like a 5-second question.
5 seconds, 3 seconds. Oh, God. Jesus Christ. I've waited for 20 minutes to ask that one question.
Okay. So
yeah, go ahead. But what's the fundamental difference? Because we're saying the same thing.
There's a ton.
The fundamental difference, I think, if we're talking about 2014, the annexation of Crimea, I don't think there really is much of a foundational difference at all. In fact, I think the Crimean one actually may be much more justifiable. When it comes to the 2022 full-scale invasion, I think that there is a pretty significant difference in that on hundreds of thousands of people dead compared to 40. That's a big, huge, massive difference.
Humongous difference. It is. I'm dead serious. Okay. So what I provided to you were two frameworks by which someone could have a rational set of principles by which they could come to preferences, that they could come to different conclusions and not be hypocrites. Now, in the one case, you're like, oh, it's so ridiculous that, for example, you would say, well, I only care about the rule of law when Trump is in power versus Biden, right? I agree. That position, the view itself, I find to be ridiculous. What isn't ridiculous, however, is take a level of abstraction backwards, which is, yeah, I don't respect North Korean rule of law. I only have respect for rule of law in certain systems of law and not in others. That not only is not absurd, it is like absurd to hold to the opposite, right? Imagine that would be like a D&D character where you're like lawful neutral, or like you only care about law. I don't even think that would be true. It'd be like a lawful. Like you only care about rule of law for its own sake.
Lawful.
Yeah.
Okay, so D&D references might not be your thing, but keep going.
Okay, you're from the plane of Mechanus, and you are one of these Modrons who follows rules like for their own sake and according to internal systems of logic.
I don't know what the fuck Modron.
I know D&D.
You don't know what a Modron is?
Yeah.
Come on. All right. So no one holds, and I want for you to grant this. Do you know of any person who believes in following laws and rule of law independent of the system of law? I just believe in following the law and rule of law in and of itself, regardless of what the laws say or what system they operate out of. I just want to ask, do you know anyone who holds to that maxim or ideal?
Hold on. I think that there are plenty of people that hold to the maxim that if something is the law, that you should generally follow it. I think that there are certain thresholds. Hold on. I think there are certain thresholds where things can, like certain laws can, and this is, by the way, I predicted exactly you were going here. If you can roll back the fucking tape, I said, you're going to say, what if some dictator happens to exist within a legal system that maintains that dictator's position of power or any kind of tyrannical force's position of power? For me, the question is, is that system responsive to the whims of the people, right? Because ultimately, self-determination is the thing that we're referring to, or at least the thing that I value when we're talking about some kind of system that contains the rule of law that I would think is rational to follow. I think
even in that situation where
it's
just real quick, even if it's responding to the will of people, like obviously, if the will of the people was to implement slavery, you'd be against that, correct? Even though it was responsive to the will of the people. So that's not your criteria.
Yes.
What is?
Right. So there's a number, I suppose, of like egregious actions that could be taken by that need to be weighed up against like what the will of the people is. That I think that you could, in some degree, rationally come to the conclusion. Well, even though the majority of people want this, even though this is reflective of the will of the people, like the actual like moral weight of this action is so bad.
That's a great example.
It's so bad. Like maybe with
Let's
like even
just
if
use that
Kim
example.
Jong-un was fucking. Hold on. This would require rationally analyzing wow, droning on and on. You're going to complain about that, Pisco? So this would require rationally analyzing the specifics of that leader's actions or that government's actions in the overall context of that country. And when you look at Ukraine, right, that was a leader who was Democrat elected and functioned in accordance with the leaders both beforehand and after.
Wait a second. Okay, all right. So we're getting to brass tacks. Do you respect, for example, the system of law contained in dictatorships?
Did you not hear what I just fucking said?
Can you answer the question? What the fuck is your problem? Just answer it.
I answered this question just a minute ago.
So you said if you have some authoritarian come up in the context of a law. I'm asking a more simple, clean version of that. I'm asking, do you respect the law from absolute monarchies and dictatorships?
Depends what the law is.
The system of law. Right, so you don't know
the system of
law.
The system. Hold on, I'm going to repeat the answer that Wick seemed to got, which was: is it responsive to the will of the people? This was America's justification for leaving the UK.
So how would you determine that by getting the sense of what most people wanted to do?
Holistic analysis.
Wait a second.
Right, I'll wait some
you
more.
know where we're going. You know where the fuck we're going. So here's where we're going, right? I'm going to ask you, how would you determine whether something is in accord with the law of the will of the people, such that you would respect it? And if you say anything like, well, based on what the percentage of a majority of the population think generally, then you're going to have a lot of issues in applying this to Ukraine vis-a-vis the respect for the Ukrainian constitution as such, with respect to the impeachment provisions as applied to Yanukovych, and then of course the Maidan itself. I mean, if it's the not within the keeping of the will of the people to have Yanukovych in power, why do you respect the rule of law in that case?
Hold on. Before you answer, this is the problem I'm having right now. Hold on. No, stop saying hold on. It's been 20 minutes, Lactoid. I don't want to be a dick, but I'm jumping in for like 5 seconds here again. You can start counting, but here's the thing. Pisco, you're a real smart individual. I'll give you this credit. Here's the problem you have with Lactoid right now. You're being too smart. This is why I keep asking this question. If it's what's best for America, why does it fucking matter? You still haven't answered this, and like I know you've been arguing with Pisco and you haven't gotten to it directly, but actually everything Pisco's arguing about is kind of invalidated, and it doesn't matter what he's arguing because the whole root of the point is what I'm saying. Pisco could be 100% right, he'd be 100% negative, but it seems like you're being real wishy-washy because you care about the legality of some shit in another country, in one country, but don't give a shit about the legality in another.
Yeah, so do you. So do you.
I know, Pisco. I know, Pisco. That's my point, and I openly admit that. But he's not. That's my point. Why I'm confused.
Good point. Actually, Gibbs, great assist. Thank you.
Oh my
Thank
fucking
you.
God.
I appreciate it.
So no. Okay, I don't even know how to fucking begin. So you're saying that is it just good for the U.S.? First of all, I disagree that it's good for the U.S. because I think that what we've done is driven Russia into being a gas station for China, which is our main geopolitical enemy. And so we've actually shot ourselves in the foot by taking the antagonistic approach that we've taken to Russia. That's the first analysis. The second analysis is my analysis is not always solely based on what's good for America. That is part of it. But I also care about the concept of rule of law. I also care about the casualty count. These things are things that I do care about. And things that are going to predictably lead to conflict are things that I generally oppose. Things that are not going to predictably lead to conflict are going to be things that I generally approve of. Of course, there's more nuance with all of that. And it's going to be a case-by-case basis that we're going to go through all of it, generally generally speaking, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's not my analysis is not simply, it is good for the U.S. to overthrow Venezuela,
Yeah,
which is why I very specifically said I'm
that's
not.
Your crazy
Which is very specifically why. Which is very explicitly why I said I was opposed to the idea of Trump saying, let's just go in there and take the fucking oil. Let's just annex it. I was saying, what is good for the yes, thank you. What is good for the actual Venezuelan people? Their self-determination.
I agree that was Lactoid's position. I agree that didn't land as much, Gibbs. I just want to say, because I think he cares more about than just America. But what's wrong with my position? My position is like something like this.
Sure.
And you tell me something wrong with this.
I'm getting on to address yours now.
Wait. Let's just deal with my actual position. I have to leave in like 5 minutes. My actual position, take issue with it. All right. This is my position. I think it was bad they didn't follow the impeachment procedure in Ukraine. I think it's bad. They should have followed the procedures. They should have tried to carry forth the legitimacy from the previous rule of law under the Ukrainian government, and it's bad they didn't do it. That said, the fact that there was an election after the fact, where there was, by all accounts, a free and fair election in which the next leader could be selected, and given the fact that Russia invaded Ukraine in what I think is a greater rule violation, a more significant evil rule violation, especially under the context of Ukraine law. I have to imagine you think the Russian invasion is illegal under Ukraine law. So as between the two violations, I just view the Russian violation as way worse than the violation of the Ukrainian constitution impeachment provisions as to Yanukovych. And in that sense, I'm going to not be discounted from favoring Ukraine on the mere fact of that violation.
Okay, this is why I think this is rational. Zelensky is currently 6 years into, or 7 years, I think, into a 5-year presidential term as dictated by the Ukrainian constitution. His current administration is illegal according to the constitution of Ukraine. The West could potentially pressure him into having an election. The Trump administration has been sort of offhandedly trying to do that. Biden never made any kind of affirmative effort to really push Zelensky into having elections. Now, or even planning to have elections, because
the provision, there's the provision within the 5. Isn't there the provision?
There's no provision in the constitution. No,
for the war.
There's not. Nope, not in the Constitution. This is the thing. Like, I've read. So it is a. There is a electoral subcommittee that put forward a rule that allows for the suspension of the presidential election in times of war, but this is directly contradicted by the Ukrainian constitution. In the Ukrainian constitution, all laws have to submit to the Ukrainian constitution. If they're incompatible with the Ukrainian constitution, they're not valid laws. And the Ukrainian constitution very specifically sets a 5-year.
Or do you know? Have you studied the Ukrainian legal issues?
What is their Supreme Court decided?
So I have. I'm not like a Ukrainian lawyer. I have studied the Constitution here, and I've looked at the issues surrounding this. I have not seen any good response as to why this this electoral rule has any kind of authority over the Constitution. I've never seen anybody even attempt to justify it. Very much like with Euromaidan. I'm not a Ukrainian lawyer with that, but I haven't seen any attempt to justify, from a legal perspective, as to why they were able to remove a democratically elected leader in circumvention of the Constitution.
Well, no, but that I grant. Wait. But that I grant. But the thing is, that I grant. But did you hear the rationale there? First off, I do want to say this site says the Constitution prohibits the holding of parliamentary elections during martial law. Is there a separate presidential election?
Parliamentary elections.
Yeah, okay.
Nope. So there's nothing about presidential elections. It's specifically parliamentary. And I agree. And the parliament does. The Burkina Rada does not have to have elections. True.
Okay, and the electoral code says it prohibits holding any. This is what some site is saying. Any elections during martial law or state of emergency in the whole country or in parts of it. Is your contention that the electoral code is invalid under Ukrainian law?
Yes.
Okay. I have to read into it. Yes. But let's just grant it for the purpose of the discussion. Yeah. Let's say that he's a dictator. Suppose that he's a dictator. But suppose that you agree Putin's already a dictator, right? Also a dictator. Fair.
And I think there are differences. I think that with Putin, I think it's fair to say he's a highly oligarchic president. I think that his polling that he had from Western sources, and also anti-Russian sources like the Levada Center, consistently put Putin's polling.
Come on,
let me finish. Consistently consistently puts Putin's polling in line with the election results that he gets. Right, he is an overwhelmingly popular president. This is actually one of the main differences between him and Maduro, which is why I think the ousting of Maduro is so much more justified than when it comes to Vladimir Putin.
What happens to his political opposition?
Bro, Lactoid, do you remember when he switched to prime minister for like 4 years, then switched back?
Poison.
I don't think he's good. I don't think he's good. I think that Zelensky is worse. I think that unlike Putin,
what about President Xi? President Xi a dictator?
I think. Hold on. I think Zelensky is worse than Putin. I think unlike Putin, he has circumvented the Constitution in order to stay in power longer than his term dictates that he has is allowed to. He has passed.
Putin on those grounds is on all fours. On all fours. He's violating Ukrainian law all the time.
Come on, man.
He's on all fours. You can't distinguish it based on violations of Ukrainian law.
He is falling. No, hold on. Of course, hold on. If I think it's perfectly fine to say Vladimir Putin is following the constitutional process he set forth in Russia and they're not unreasonable. As opposed to
she shouldn't care about Ukrainian law.
So why should we?
So why should we care about Ukrainian law?
Because we're giving them a fuck ton of money, and we should probably care about how the officials behave and the structure of rule of law in that country if we're going to tie ourselves to it.
So hang on a second. So do you think it was wrong to fund Stalin in World War II? Do you think it was wrong to fund Stalin in World War II?
So I think Hitler was worse. You know what? To some degree, that's a really tough question, actually. Because in some regards, we set up the Soviet Union, which was an evil empire. We set that up to do horrendous shit following the Iron Curtain and all of that. And maybe they wouldn't have had the ability to do that if we didn't fund them. But on the other hand, if Hitler did win, I mean, it's a really tough question. I think
what I'm trying to say is there can be good cases for supporting dictatorships over others, even assuming that he's a dictator.
I understand, but what's happening is there's like so much more shit to this because I've had plenty of this conversation. Yes, you're putting forward objections. I understand. So far I've heard all these objections, right? The overall idea of the Ukrainian people, maybe they have a president who's in power unconstitutionally. Maybe they've passed a whole bunch of laws that ban religion, ban language, and ban criticism of the regime. Maybe they're horribly corrupt, they're horribly authoritarian, maybe all this. But maybe we have to have them as this kind of bulwark against Russia, which is going to pose such a greater.
To help rectify the greater evil, which was the invasion. That's why.
Right, but we were talking about the greater evil, which was the invasion, right?
Yes, you agree that it's the greater evil.
It's the greater evil, correct? Yes or no?
So it depends what invasion you're talking about. 2014.
No. I'm talking about the 2022 invasion.
Hold up. So the 2014 invasion of Crimea.
I'm not talking about it.
I get it.
So why are you talking about it?
Why are you addressing? We're asking
not talking about
because I'm giving context. Because I know you guys want to hyperfixate on one specific example when I'm giving a holistic understanding, so you guys can take away my position from this whole conflict. Okay, what I'm talking about is yes, I think Russian actions were completely justified in 2014, all the way up until 2022, where things get a little bit more muddy. I do think that throughout all this period of time, there could have been obvious actions taken by the Ukrainian side that could have prevented the invasion from happening in the first place. And even this is relevant because the reason why it's pertinent is because we could have prevented this conflict. We could have ended this conflict a few months into it, and we could end it now.
That's not the question. Could we have ended it? Could Ukraine have done something? Did we ask you that? We didn't ask you that.
And we could end it now. So when you're saying is the war a greater evil, the responsibility for the war,
the invasion in 2022.
The 2022 war invasion, whatever you want to call it, the responsibility for that is shared on both sides.
No one's asking that. No one's asking if it's shared. No one's asking if it's fucking shared. No one's asking if it's fucking shared. No one's asking if it's shared.
Do I think that the war itself, the 2022 invasion, does that represent the biggest moral evil of the overall conflict? I do. Yes. If only you let me get to this fucking shit. Okay, we took much longer because you guys can't fucking. No. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't fucking add nuance. I can't add context. I can't talk about this shit.
After you answered the damn question.
So what I think is that the responsibility for this conflict, specifically the 2022 invasion, responsibility falls on both sides. I think it was predictable given the actions of both Russia, Ukraine, and NATO. I think it was very predictable what would happen. And it is not the case that giving one of the parties responsible a tremendous amount of weapons in conjunction with the fact that they are an authoritarian state, in conjunction with that prior to 2022, their actions that precipitated the 2022 invasion were horrific. I mean, we're talking about decades of oppression of the Crimean people.
That would be justified. That would be justified if you thought that giving that aid was the best way to get to the best solution, right? It would be justified in virtue of that. Notwithstanding that,
but there's one. But there's no rational person who believes that. There's no rational person who believes that.
Why not?
Because all it's done is prolong the conflict.
That's your case to make. You're saying no rational person could believe that sending aid to Ukraine will probably lead to the best result. You're saying no rational person. This is what.
Going back to my tweet. Wait. Going back to.
Let me add to this. Justin, you can address us both. But the idea that there was anything that the West could have done that would have stopped Putin from going into Ukraine eventually is nonsense.
You guys have the Tim Pool thing about this.
Specifically, and many different points that he wants to just take Ukraine. Ukraine does not exist in his mind. He thinks of it as a greater part of Russia. So this nonsense, this premise that you start with, that there was some action that the West could have taken, and that it was some
but I'm
sort
willing
of
to just grant it for
Zelensky.
I'm just willing to grant it to humor him. I'm willing to grant it just to humor him.
It bothers me.
I understand.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
So, I don't think I know it's like my case to make. I'm making the case, and I'm saying that I think that the people who believe that giving almost $200 billion in weapons to Ukraine, given the history that we've seen, given the early chances to end the war, given the context of how that money was sent and for what purpose it was sent, I don't think any rational person would see that and say that's the best option to end the conflict or to prevent the conflict from expanding. I don't think, first of all, that's the first point. I don't think any rational person would say that. But second of all, if we go back to my original tweet, I don't think any rational, self-proclaimed anti-interventionist would say that, because your line of logic is the line of logic used by every interventionist.
Well,
every interventionist says
that's assuming.
Every interventionist believes.
What's the fundamental difference?
Is anyone
what Russia's doing?
Every interventionist believes that if you throw money at like this specific analysis, like we've done it, and it's like I 100% then it's going to be justified. But somebody who is like complaining about removing a dictator, right, which is what happened in Venezuela, that's specifically who I'm referring to. The pro-Zelensky people who are complaining about like interventionism, removing an unelected dictator in Venezuela. They are being irrational if they're true anti-interventionists.
No.
Otherwise, they're just interventionists.
So let's talk about it. One, find me the person who is maybe they exist. They probably do exist. Some people who are like against intervention, by which we mean taking any action whatsoever in any conflict. Is that how we're defining interventionism?
No. That's not what I said.
Oh, no,
that's not what I said.
Okay, so what do you mean by intervention? Anti-interventionism.
What I'm saying is that if you take the anti-interventionalist position with
what do you mean by the word, dude? Holy fuck! Are you fucking stupid? I asked you a question of semantics. Bro. What do you mean by anti-interventionist?
Yeah. The U.S. getting involved in other countries worldwide, like in some kind of coercive manner.
In some kind of coercive manner.
I would assume so.
Okay, so
that's generally people referring to with interventionism.
Is sending military aid coercive?
It could be, yeah. Like if you're sending military aid that prolongs the conflict.
Wait. So
I can't think of a situation in which it wouldn't be. I'm just going to say yes. There could be a situation in which you could like walk me through, and eventually I'd say, well, maybe in that specific scenario, it's not.
Okay,
I guess.
I don't know who the fuck you're talking about. If that's what you're talking about, there's like no Democrat who's anti-interventionist, because I think all Democrats support giving at least some amount of military aid to our allies. So we're not.
Yeah. Nobody. nobody in the world is 100% anti-interventionist. Okay, maybe people who have like, I don't even think Scott is like 100% anti-interventionist.
Hold on.
Like maybe
I can
you
tell
find
you the North Sentinel Island. They're anti-intervention.
Okay, you know what, Gibbs? I will take the L on that. The North Sentinelese people, I would say, are the true, pure-blooded anti-interventionists.
I'm in support of giving
what I'm
military
talking
aid to
about,
all sorts of different places. I'm in favor of military aid.
Well, yeah, sure.
So I guess I'm not anti-interventionist.
What I'm talking about are like the specific anti-interventionists I'm talking about in relation to the tweet that you can fucking go back and look at is I'm talking about the kind of people that would oppose U.S. intervention when it comes to a circumstance of the U.S. not entirely, but relatively bloodlessly removing a unelected dictator of a South American country, and then saying the U.S. shouldn't get involved. This is another, like, oh wow, the anti-intervention president Donald Trump. What the fuck? Like, this is ridiculous.
Why is he doing this? You're just straw manning.
If you have the standard, I'm not straw manning.
Yes,
if you have the standard where you think that is wrong, if you have the standard whereas you think that action is wrong.
He is straw man.
Lactoid, no one says that. No one says
the fuck out of me.
Lactoid. No one says we're against this. No one says we're against intervention because we are against getting rid of dictators from South America who violate their own laws. No one gives that rationale. That's why it's a straw man.
I'm not. Jesus fucking Christ, Pisco. Just, I swear to God. Okay, can I say the word autistic?
Swear to me.
I can still say that, right?
Swear to me.
Okay. So
first of all, Rick, thank you so much. This has been so enjoyable. So entertaining. I've been laughing the whole time. Thank you so much, Rick. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
The people who have a threshold for intervention. Okay, these people have a threshold because everybody has somewhere. Okay, but if you have somebody whose threshold, right, is it is wrong for the president of the United States to go in and remove an unelected dictator, relatively bloodlessly. Which is what happened objectively. Okay, if you think that's wrong, but your standard of intervention is not higher, which is almost $200 billion to a authoritarian criminal regime to continue, which could have ended a long time ago and could end now, to continue a incredibly, probably, I think, the bloodiest conflict right now in the world. I think that there's only two examples. There's only two explanations here. The first explanation is Donald Trump did it, and your view on rule of law and intervention is totally different because the leader, who currently is the leader of the United States. Or two, you are irrational. Those are the only two explanations in my understanding.
Okay,
there's nobody with
just real quick. I need to address this. It's the why we think doing it that matters.
Correct.
I can't speak for Pisco.
Even with the why.
I can't speak for anyone else. But the reason I oppose removing Maduro is that it was done, but how it was done.
And why?
In the case of Ukraine, we went through Congress, we passed bills, we got the consent to the governed in order to do this. In the case of Maduro, we did not.
So wait. That person. So real quick, I will directly get to what Wick just brought up. Yeah, no, it's not inconsistent at all. You would have to grant that, right? So let's just deal with Wick's question right now, Lactoid. That for a person,
to grant that's entirely consistent.
For a person who takes the view that what differentiates them, at least one respect, which differentiates, is legality, and they take the view that this is illegal and Ukraine is legal, that would be a rational distinction, right?
If we look at that in isolation, but I think that's ignoring the flagrant violations of law committed by the country that you're sending money to. I don't think that can be ignored.
I only care about U.S. law.
U.S. law.
Yeah,
U.S. law. Yeah. I believe it's unconstitutional.
Sure.
Hold it. Let me finish. To remove Maduro. In the case of how we handled Ukraine, we had done nothing that is against U.S. law. We went through Congress. We passed bills.
Principled,
we got the consent to the governed, and we took care of it. We did not do that in Maduro. That's the difference. That's why I oppose one, and I'm okay with the other.
Okay. So
those people aren't irrational and not just I hate Trump, right?
So hold on. Yeah. to address specifically what you're saying, Wick, if you're talking about people who are hyper fixated on simply U.S. law, like they don't really care about the rule of law generally, I guess, across the world, that's not part of their calculation. But if you're taking somebody who has like a sole interest in U.S. law and simultaneously believes that the kidnapping, abduction of Maduro was illegal and sending money to Ukraine was not illegal, then if these two parameters are met, then it would be consistent for this person to support the Ukraine intervention and oppose the Venezuelan intervention. But then you would have to admit, Wick, if this is like the shining city on the hill for you, you would have to admit then that if, let's say, the courts ruled on this and they ruled it was legal,
No, he wouldn't.
right? That what Trump did, what Trump did, then would you then support Trump's actions when it comes to intervening in Venezuela?
No, that's a question. No, sorry.
Well, let him answer. He's an adult.
No, wait.
The question was not for you.
No, I know, but you just made an accusation.
The question was not for you.
No. You made a question to Wick, and it started as an accusation. You would have to, and then it turned into a question because you realized he wouldn't be necessarily bound to take one view just because he had a different, like a dispositive view on the legality. By the way, he's not even necessarily bound by the Supreme Court's determination as to legality. I take the view that a lot of the Supreme Court decisions that have been made have been wrongly decided. And so there's nothing that would force him to either A, accept the determination of the U.S. Supreme Court on his view of what the law is, or B, not come to the same conclusion, notwithstanding the legal argument being decisively won.
Hold on, before y'all move on, because y'all are both lawyers, so y'all can answer this quick question for Public Gibbs, because, I'm, as Pisco said earlier, I'm a drunk, dumbass rancher. I'm real stupid. I don't understand these things. And so let me just ask you two super highly intelligent lawyers this quick question. What is the highest legal standard for defining and describing a law? Is it what is that? If someone rules on something, who is the top? Who is the expert? Can you tell me?
Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That was a good sales pitch. Pisco, you missed your opportunity. That wasn't even what I was going to do. That was a great answer.
You're saying, how can I disagree with the Supreme Court? Is that where you're going to? How can you disagree about the Supreme Court? Because they're the Supreme.
No, Pisco, I was trying to give you. No, Pisco, Lactoid picked up on. I was trying to give you a sales pitch, but I guess it's the Supreme Court. If we're going to be a serious answer, right? It is. How do you disagree with the Supreme Court? Tell me.
I mean, people do it all the time.
I'm done. This is not being a dick.
How do you do it? You just. It's kind of hard.
Well, I know how you do it. What is your hold on? I guess let me try a better question.
I just have opinions,
justification.
And thoughts. So I can't explain how thoughts come to my head. Maybe that's something that's not intuitive for you. That thoughts emerge.
I got it, Pisco. Sure. I've never had a thought. Ever. I just regurgitate. That's all.
I'm just trying to understand your question. How do you disagree? I mean, I don't know how to explain.
I'm going to re-ask it. Let me re-ask it. Okay. So my question is, all right, so we all agree that the Supreme Court is, I guess Lactoid doesn't, he agrees he is, but the rest of us, we agree the Supreme Court is the highest interpretation of law in the land. And so your argument is you disagree with several of these. What is your justification and what is your merits for being hey, I know more than the highest law in the land, and why am I right? How do you vindicate
Well, I'll give you an answer. There are some decisions that can be made where I am capable of reading the law. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm capable of plain text readings.
Sure.
For example, if suddenly the Supreme Court decided that slavery was legal and that the 14th Amendment allowed slavery, you'd be like, well, wait, no, that's obviously not true. And it would be evidence that the Supreme Court is a tool of the regime, that they are no longer going off of actual legal reasoning and that they're just deciding things based on their things. So if enough evidence piles up that a Supreme Court is not following the law as written, then yes, I can absolutely make a judgment and determine, hey,
can you give me an example of that?
Illegitimate.
Just
I'll give you an example.
Right?
So in the 1850s, actually.
Not you.
I want to give you one. I want to give you one. I have a good one.
I know you do.
I have a really good one.
Just wait 10 seconds.
I have a really good one. Wait 10
seconds. Wait 10 seconds.
Yeah, I know you do.
I'm sure you do.
Let Pisco go.
No, you can go in a second. Wait, hold on. Before you go, Pisco.
Yeah, I have a good one.
10 seconds, Pisco. 10 seconds, please.
Well, I have a good one.
Please. All right. I know you do. I know you do, and you can give it to me.
Hey, what's your 10
listen, I'm
seconds,
excited to take it like a whore on nickel night. Listen, Wick, what is your example? Just out of curiosity.
I gave you the one about the Supreme Court deciding about if they decided
The 13th Amendment
slavery,
was slavery.
right?
Yeah,
That would be an
No,
example.
no,
he wants a
just
real
the Dred
example.
Scott decision.
Well, that's where we were going. That's
No,
a fun
that's
one,
fine,
right?
that's fine,
That's a fun one. Why don't we
No,
do?
that's fine, that's fine.
Let's
All right, go
deal
ahead,
with that.
Pisco.
So let's deal
I
with
just
that.
wanted to hear his. I just want to hear his example. I just wanted Pisco.
Well, no, that's
Sorry.
not. Well, no, what he's
Go
talking
ahead,
about isn't
Pisco.
what he's talking about isn't the Dred Scott decision. He's talking about a hypothetical lawsuit in which the Supreme Court does something so facially ridiculous as to read the 13th Amendment.
Wait, you don't, wait. So y'all agree with Dred Scott?
No, we don't agree with Dred
Y'all
Scott.
agree Dred Scott
That's
was legal?
no.
Oh, okay.
Let
That's
Pisco
a fine
give you your example.
So what I'm just
Okay,
trying to
okay.
distinguish for you is like Wick wasn't providing you the fact pattern of
Not everybody's bad faith all the time.
Yeah. So Wick was not providing you the fact pattern of Dred Scott because, of course, Dred Scott predates the Civil War because, of course, Dred Scott predates the 13th and 14th Amendments that he was referencing. So, of course, he wasn't referring to the fact pattern of Dred Scott. But the Dred Scott is a great fact pattern to go on or to think about, like how
Yeah,
I don't know,
just asked an example.
people
I
could
didn't need to
disagree
go
with
into
it.
detail.
Yeah. So here's the example: the Supreme Court rules that Black people aren't really part of the nation and therefore aren't should not be considered citizens of the United States.
We don't need a hypothetical. We can just go with the Dred Scott. Let's go with that. Stop making up all hypotheticals.
I have a response for you, Gibbs. Actually.
Oh, on
So
Dred
the-
Scott.
the real
Let's
answer.
Pisco finish his example. Pisco finish his example.
So the example is there would be nothing.
I guess Dred Scott.
There would be nothing wrong with commentators of the day in the Dred Scott decision saying, well, I'm seeing this opinion, and you know what? I think that this is wrong, actually. I think that this is a wrong opinion. And for you to be like, well, the Supreme Court said it, therefore it can't be wrong. I think you're just making a different claim that they're like the highest authority on what the law is from the perspective of the judicial branch. But people are allowed to. People are obviously allowed to disagree, as the court will often have these opinions that are included in the overall opinion called
you're missing my whole question.
Dissents.
Sure, I absolutely understand the sentence. Listen, Pisco, I'm not. This was not a bash on you. Listen, I'm not going to come at you cattywampus about listen, you and Lactoid are infinitely more qualified to answer the questions that I will ever fucking be. And it was not a bash. The question that I was asking, right, was basically like, what was your justification? I think we gave a good answer. I think the Dred Scott decision is a good example, and I think I just was curious. And like what you said, your example, like we don't need a hypothetical. I just was like, give me an example of a decision you disagree with. Like that was all I was asking.
Yeah, we're off in La La Land. I have to go. This has been a lot of fun. We should do it again. But I do want to give my summary thoughts real quick. I appreciate Wick having this.
Give your summarized closing statement, and we'll let you go. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you, Wick. Thank you, Lactoid. Thank you, Gibbs. We get a little chippy right now, but you guys are part of the community, whatever. That said, I want to just say, like, I don't think that there's any hypocrisy entailed by liberals who support Ukraine and who are also against this strike. There's nothing entailed by supporting Ukraine, even given levels of corruption that could exist there, or even law breaking, or even constitutional violations that occur there. There's nothing inconsistent about you nonetheless supporting the country against an invasion from another country. And it's on the people who claim that there's a hypocrisy to state what the contradiction is and to justify that contradiction, which of course, he's not able to do, except appeal to, well, I would think you would care about all laws, at least somewhat closely in time. Overall, on the question of the Venezuela tax, I think it's completely unjustified. It's unjustified, one, because it's illegal. We didn't really get to it that much, but it's also, I think, bad policy. And I think the motivations of the administration will speak for itself. They're trying to extract resources from Venezuela. Now, if it happens that it's a flourishing democracy, there's no problems there, I will admit there were good results. But in retrospect, the legal issue here is it's overdetermined. In other words, the fact that this is unconstitutional, the fact that it's being done in your name without proper authorization is enough to decide that you're against it. But yeah, thank you, Wick, and thank you all.